Okay. Finance IT Committee, July 24th, 9:02 a.m. Amanda, could you call the roll, please?
Freer. Snyder.
Yes.
Ryder.
Yes.
Watt. Nutella.
Yes. Call the meeting to order. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? I'll do that. Second by Mr. Geiger. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Have any public comments? None. We will go to the budget hearing, and Mr. Anderson, EMEA. EMA.
There you go.
I'm like back I'm back 5 years. EMA.
At least you did 6 civil defense.
The man in charge of the local militia here.
No, that's the show.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Hey, back in the day,
Should be page 43.
civil defense actually had the ability to blow up bridges back in the day. It's kind of funny if you go back to the history. They did. It was actually written in the book. Good morning. Scott Anderson, your EMA coordinator. I've been here for a year, August 1st. So this is the first time I've had to go through budget hearings, and I've gone through everything. I actually looked for a little direction from Jill, which I received, which was very handy. So you have seen the slight increases that I've requested this year for what would be next year's budget. I do have a salary increase on there that isn't all that much, but I can show you how I can offset it. But I'll go through, starting out with, I have reduced 3 line items. My office expenses from 2,000 to 1,000, gas and oil from 1.5 thousand to 1, vehicle maintenance from 3.5 to 2, which is a $4,000 savings across those line items. I have 2 small increases, one in mileage and travel and one education. Those are going to allow for my assistant coordinators to attend the trainings that I would need to have them and reimburse them for their expenses. The trainings are, for the most part, free. But the little bit of a salary increase over what would be the standard cost of living, I believe, will be offset by what would be the way I move things around within the budget. So you can see the increase that's there, and it's all spelled out how I typed it, but just give you an idea of what I've accomplished in the first year that I've been there. According to the term of hire, I had to complete the PDS training, which is an extensive group of training for the state. It allows me to get my professional development certificate through the state of Illinois. I have completed that in a year. It will be presented to me in September at my summit. Immediately on hire, I move forward on the hazard mitigation plan, which has been left dormant for quite a long time. We're moving right along. It looks at this point in time. We, for the most part, have every community within the county which has agreed to participate. Almost all the fire districts were well over 50 participants that are being active participants in the plan, which is very encouraging. I've established and renewed the volunteer base. I'm up to 12 volunteers that have decided to join the ranks. Some are significantly more active than others, but that's a big thing, VMA. If something does happen, you have to have those people there in order to work with you. I worked with volunteer fire departments for the majority of my professional life, and I know that if you don't have a volunteer base, you're not going to survive. So I also, within this first year, achieved the designation of a storm-ready county by the National Weather Service, which, although isn't much more than designation, but it can reduce flood insurance premiums based on the multipliers that go through with the communities qualified. And I also immediately upon getting involved with what the grant reimbursement procedures are, I uncovered $18,000 that were not being received by the county because of improper filing of the paperwork and recorrected or submitted the stuff from previous. And I believe that they're already starting to be received, and my grant receivables are always on time. So the grant monies that are coming that pays for what would be at least half of my salary, it's all covered by the federal grant. Always on time, and whenever the state cuts the checks, I got no control over that. So yeah, that's what I presented. Hey, anybody have any questions?
I don't think so. As far as like the raises and those things, just so since you're new, normally what we do is we
wait until we go through this whole process and then we go back and we kind of look at everything from a whole perspective.
Understood.
Not that there aren't one-off changes that are ever made for specific people for specific reasons, but we kind of gotta, at least at first, align everybody or at some level and then look at it.
I've been,
And
I talked to Jill
Okay.
about things like
Yeah,
that. She made
so-
me aware of how it
Yeah.
was,
But
but if I don't present it here,
I'll understand.
if I don't ask for it, it's an automatic
And
no.
yeah, exactly.
So-
And I'll also say that I think everybody, I believe, shares the sentiment that it's appreciated how much you have. It's been in a very good direction, so.
Thank you. I took a significant pay cut for my concrete hauling job in order to do this. But I agreed to that.
But you
I
knew what
understood
you're
that.
getting into,
I
right?
knew what I was getting into. But I've also, it's a personal thing, but my wife is now completely disabled and is unable to work. So financially, it's tough. So I would appreciate any assistance that I can get, but I think that I've earned it. Honestly, I do. So, and will continue to do this above and beyond because that's what the county residents deserve. You know, I get good responses from my fire departments. For the first time in the history of this department, I did training with the police department and the coroner's office this last active shooter drill that I just held. So these are the kind of relationships that need to be established in case, God forbid, something majorly catastrophic happens in the county. I've got to be able to work with all of these people and not necessarily steer the ship, but be there to assist and make sure that the residents get what they need to stay safe and then to help recover. So that's what my job is.
Yep, well,
Are you still actively looking for other grants?
I always look for other grants. They're just so limited when it comes to what EMA is able to receive. I'm still trying to find a small grant that will pay for the engine and the replacement of the engine in Watsika's retired rescue squad, because they will donate that to me and an EMA, but it's not gonna do me any good if the engine's blown, so.
Which brings us to the point you decrease your maintenance.
Strictly on my EMA vehicle,
But where is it in your line item or in the budget if you were gonna pursue that?
I'll cross that bridge when I get to it. If they do decide to donate it, it can sit dormant for however length of time, even where it sits, until if I have to wait a whole nother year to include that. I didn't feel that it was appropriate to put something into this budget that would incorporate that if it's still a long shot. But all I know is it's not going anywhere until I tell Chief Byer, hey, I'm gonna. He's agreed to keep it where it's at. It's not hurting anything to sit.
Okay.
So, but, so to me, it's just not appropriate to include it into something, just to have the money there and then move them around. Because if you don't spend it, it doesn't look good on the next budget. I'd rather come to you guys next time around and say, hey, now I need it.
That's a fallacy.
Well, I understand. But that's- I don't think I would have to have that word this time around. So,
very good. Thank you for your time.
No problem.
Yep.
appreciate you all.
Anyone know if he's gonna make her?
As far as I know, but we're a little bit early. Do you want me to do?
Sure.
Okay. So let's do animal control.
What page we
Go to page
on?
three.
Like all of it.
What's that?
Page three.
Page 3. Okay.
So there's 2 lines on animal control for revenues, which is 42,700 animal registration fees. Leaving that the same at 5,500, I think the transition from 1 year to 3 year tax is about evened out, and we should be looking at that unless there's any sort of increases in registration fees, which was discussed in the code book
You said
months ago, that we were gonna leave that the same.
You said 72 or 42.
42,700, which is animal registration fees, I'm gonna leave it 55,000.
Okay, I think you said 5,500.
Oh,
Okay.
I'm sorry. 42,710, right underneath it is animal public safety fines and fees. I am going to lower that a little bit, just because as far as the fines and fees are going, I'm having a hard time getting those collected. And really, they don't have any police powers or any legality unless they want to be pursued through the state's attorney's office. So My hands are kind of tied on that.
They can't do that. What was that whole thing that Lisa was doing on, they taking off their taxes or something, tax returns or?
She had talked about that, but I'm not sure the
Okay.
details, to be honest with you.
Not that it's a-
The one right underneath it is animal control dog claim fees. I'm not really sure why there was two set up. I think it had something to do with, Dr. Yusuf's office and this and that, but anyways, I merged that with 42,710 back in 2023. It'll just stay on there until it falls off after 5 years. And then if you wanna go to page 67, that is the general fund animal control. These money come out of the general fund. The animal control is something that we, have to provide, but it's not a big money maker. So I put in the standard salaries. Office supplies I kept the same. I did lower animal care because we've gotten into some lower cost vet care with Kankakee County and also Four Paws Pet Clinic out of Urban A. That's been a huge savings and it also has lowered some of our, oh, and the other thing is too, is I also got hooked up with Vaccines for Less, where we get our medications, a lot cheaper through them. They ship them next day, all refrigerated. So I lowered that just a bit to kind of see where we're at. Mileage and travel, I kept that the same. Looks off, based off of her, projections. Unless they outrageously raise the mileage rate, I think that one will be okay. Service contracts, I did increase that to 90,000. Now, the service contracts is you pay I have 4 animal control officers. They get paid $55 for an investigation plus mileage, $85 for transportation plus mileage. And then to do kennel duties at the building, since we don't have anybody there full-time, they get paid $55 to do kennel duties if it's their scheduled day. That is increasing a little bit because we are having to take animals up to Kankakee and Bourbonnais quite a bit. We're having to transport them. I used Dr. Updike out of Paxton for an accident dog not too long ago. We've had to travel, if it's a weekend for any sort of bats or anything like that, they've had to travel to Champaign. I've avoided going all the way to Springfield so far. Hope they keep doing that. So that's why that one's going up. Utilities. Utilities I kept the same. We're still kind of seeing where utilities are gonna land at that building since it's pretty new to us. Building maintenance I kept the same. We haven't used a whole lot of building maintenance. I do wanna look at getting some new gates for the 5 kennels in the back. So we may use that up between this year and next year. And then miscellaneous, I lowered a bit because we haven't really utilized that line too much, so overall, we're looking at 178,500. I do wanna note though that since I took over for Dr. Yusuf, the animal control officers have, they have increased the amount of citations they have been writing. They will write a citation, usually for animals at large, failure to comply with a bite, animal bite. They will do registration or vaccination failures. And those citations, in 2021, they wrote 64, 2022, they wrote 51, 2023, they wrote 61. This year, so far, they've written 40, and I'm hoping that they can write another 40 more. Now, those go directly to the circuit clerk, and, their process over there is, I don't really know. So, we can ask Lisa for sure, but hopefully they get some of those, fines and fees collected. Not sure what happens if they don't wanna pursue the issue any further, so. Any questions on animal control?
How, can you
just walk me through how the service contracts are paying for these people to go pick up the dogs and how it's more than tripled, I guess, in a 5-year period. Take me back to 2020, 2019, because I can't even remember, but I mean, how did it get?
Well-
Are there that many more loose dogs, or what's driving that?
Right, there's been an uptake in dump dogs. People seem to be dumping a lot of dogs, especially over by the Beaverville area, Wellington, and Clifton Chavance area. And I believe a lot of it is prior to, 2021, when Dr. Yusuf was involved. He was in the building full-time and he could produce a lot of those services and say, no, we don't need to go to this, or yes, we do need to go to that, no, we don't need to go to that. I'm the interim, and I have been for quite a while now, because there's been no other person, I suppose, or no more efforts in trying to find somebody else, or whatever the case may be. And so I do rely a lot on the officers. They contact me, they send me pictures. ICOM is supposed to be reporting them out. Sometimes they'll get mayors that contact them or this or that. I do invoice those that don't have intergovernmental agreement with animal control, but it just seems like there's been a large intake. We've had a bigger intake of animal bites, and they have to go out on those, and it's $55, and they gotta go out twice for those. Because they go out initially and serve the paper and give them the information on what to do in the process, and then they have to go out a second time to follow up on the animal's health. That's a minimum. They may have to go out more, because if they have to leave a door card the first time, then the second time they'd have to go, make an appointment to get them the information they need, and then the third time is a follow-up. So it just seems like non-compliance is an issue, which is causing more visits. And yeah, we have seen a large, uptake in animals, and that could be due to the rising costs. People just, they get them and they realize how expensive they are, and they don't take care of them.
I know you've been kind of got this thrown on your lap, and I know I'm appreciative of what you've done to kind of wrestle it and get it straightened out, but what would you do to so you talked about Dr. Yusuf and all that, if we could get a vet, or what kind of, can you get, what would make that better, I guess?
We're paying more fees because I have to have them travel and take
Yeah.
animals to vets.
Right.
And really, Bourbonnais has been our main area to take them because, Dr. Malazzo's very busy. She normally can't get them in right away. Dr. Yusuf Dr. Updike has helped me out in certain situations, but again, he's very busy and shorthanded. So you could, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I read through it. You can hire an administrator who is not a veterinarian, obviously I'm not a veterinarian. As long as you have a veterinarian services, setup. So like we currently have with Kankakee County and with Four Paws, I would think that would be fine. It really just needs more attention to be managed better.
I guess what I was getting at is out of that 90,000, how much is because we're running these dogs to Bourbonnais or whatever, and could we just set up a set contract that, okay, once a week, the vet shows up for
Yes and no, but a lot of
half
times
that or whatever,
I don't
savings.
let them take animals unless it is an emergency.
Okay. Well, I
Or
didn't know how
if
much.
we have somebody lined up to take an animal that won't take them without being spayed or neutered, then they pay we can do that for $136 through Four Paws now, which is really cheap anymore. They have to pay the $136 up front before we take the animal up there. It's just, it just needs more attention.
Would the $90,000 for next year, is that, whose name's on the check? Is that the people, the volunteers that go out and make these?
They're not
Volunteers.
volunteers, they're
Not
employees.
volunteers, but these employees, part-time employees. Is that basically these part-time employees
I have 4 of them, yes.
and they make up that $90,000?
They
I'm
do.
just asking, would it be
Yeah.
cheaper to get more of a full-time singular person?
Oh, yeah, that's what, I mean, I proposed that last year, I'm proposing it again. They have to do 2 kennel duties a day, which includes cleaning.
What I mean, if we eliminate, I'm saying
See-
eliminate some of the part-time for people.
You're still gonna need part-time people, because they have to be on call 24/7.
But I'm just asking, we saw where Cornaspa, that says $30,000 is what an annual starting pay is.
And you're still gonna have to pay them mileage, but they're still gonna have to use their own vehicle. I don't know, I mean, it's
Well,
just one of
The sheriff's
those.
gonna have some cars that he's gonna wanna retire because they're too,
Mhm.
so I mean, I'm just asking, cause $90,000, geez, seems like a lot of money.
What's like a Ford Cup?
Ford County has Dr. Updike, so they're kind of running like we used to with Yusuf.
I know, but in the middle, they got, but this isn't, so that was like my, maybe I'm misunderstanding. But this 90,000 is paying these people, but those aren't vets, I mean, these are darn near volunteers that are going out in the middle of the night to pick up a dog. I mean, are they paying that much money to go pick up dogs in the middle of the night?
I don't know, I can't speak for that.
Well, I know,
What is-
I'm just saying that it's a more rhetorical, I
what
guess,
is-
but it's
what
just,
is, you know, when you're thinking $110 a day for kennel duties, that doesn't even include any calls that they get, any transportations. We're having to take animals to rescues, to fosters. I mean, I'm open to suggestions, I just don't have, again, it really needs a person that has more time to manage it properly. And I've said that since the day I got gifted the position.
Could you come up with kind of a list of duties or daily responsibilities that,
We have something already for an animal control administrator that is in our job descriptions.
okay,
It breaks down to about 31 incidents per week, of which at least 14 are just morning and afternoon
Kennel.
kennel duties. So, I mean, and if you have things where you're going 3 times for one incident, it adds up pretty quick.
Well, and you hear my reports every
that's my
month.
point is, that I'm not doubting that the numbers are
Yeah,
right.
right.
It's that, how did it triple in 3 years?
Well, we're paying full-time vet fees too. Well, not full-time, full cost vet fees sometimes. Four Paws is giving us a discount, Pinky's giving us a discount. But if I gotta use, you know, anybody else because they can't get them in, I'm getting charged full. And I've used Kentland, I've used Paxton, I've used Dr. Malazzo, I've gotten them into, I've had to take a couple to Lowell, Indiana because they're an emergency vet.
So I guess
So the savings there was that we had Yusuf on staff, that it was.
Kind of work cheap.
Well, I understand, but that was what, I guess what my earlier statement was, is that could we find somebody that knew they had a guaranteed X amount they make, and they show up for,
if they weren't all swamped, maybe. But, okay, so that's not just paying the 4
there was an excess of that.
people.
and my,
No, that,
You're
the
also
kennel,
including the,
right, the kennel duties, the,
and the
Um,
vets.
and like to give you an idea, we just got 3 dogs that had severe mange. We had to keep them isolated. They had to wear, the officers had to wear, bodysuits when they went in there until their intervectum was done, and then they were fine. But those 3 dogs, just with the medicine to take care of the mange, that was pretty expensive. And they had to go in and completely bleach the entire building. I mean, they're doing a lot of work, 4 of them. So I mean, if you look at having 4 employees at $90,000 a year, I mean, yeah, again, I'm open to suggestions. I,
What did we do though, because we didn't always have 4 people picking up dogs, did we, or what?
well, I have 2 that have full-time jobs, so they're really only part-time. They fill in whenever the other 2 cannot work. And the animal control warden, Linda, who's been around for a while, she's getting up there in age, so we've had a few weeks where she's needed to be off. So that's why I have the 4.
Years ago, we had Dan Garner. Dan did a lot of work. You know, he had the kennel and, But he basically, it was his full-time job, and, although he was paid part-time, but he did a lot of work when he worked, and so that kept our costs low. And he was there a long time, you know, him and Dr. Schlick, yeah. So we benefited from both of those guys taking care of animal control, basically, singularly between the two of them.
We could almost afford to give that building rent-free to a vet who could maintain enough hours there to help us out, but take care of the
And I know
practice.
John has went out and he has tried to, you know, solicit veterinarians and stuff, so anybody feel free to help him go out there and offer that, that'd be
What
great.
happened in the Gilman situation? That woman was pretty interested, but then it never worked out. Or-
And I know Piper City is looking at maybe getting another vet in, but then that's just gonna be a wash because, yeah, he got one that's gonna
Pretty much
retire.
I feel like when I was in college at Purdue, there was like too many people wanting to become vets, is what I recall.
Yeah, that was, I was years ago.
I mean, it wasn't that long ago, those people gotta be out of school by now.
Where'd they go?
It's like dentists. I mean, they control their own.
Well, they don't wanna do, you know, they don't wanna do the nasty work of an animal control job, they wanna do the fluffy, cute dogs up in the city, I mean, where they get paid triple the amount of money, that's a lot of the problem too. I mean, we got some rough ones right now.
Okay. So the bulk of that is paying the 90,000 versus the 23,000. Is 80% of that from the people that are just picking up the dogs and cleaning the kennel?
From a few years.
So in 2019, it was 23,000, in 2020, it was 26,000.
Sorry, I already, that's, alright. Well, the bulk of that is in, you know, like in 2021, when it was 30,000, we didn't have a building or anything, I was paid $15 a day to board. So I didn't have to pay for dog food or cleaning services or medication, I was paying $15 a day, which is really cheap. They could have them boarded somewhere, and then we got the building, and that increased due to the kennel duties that were put on, and,
Is this place that we boarded at? I can't even remember. Is it still open?
Jake's Country Little Kennels, yes, but he's got his own thing going now with bugs, I think. Definitely
Probably should have paid the guy $25 a day instead of 15 and combo the building is what that sounds like to me.
Regardless. Okay, let's go on this. Divine and. We should be on page 45. All right, we're showing the general fund states attorney, 110, 220. Page.
Doesn't have a page number.
Oh,
Oh, I'm fine, I'm good, I see it.
okay.
I'm very ready.
Okay.
So, yeah, this is my 29th presentation, folks. 24 state's attorney and 5 is public defender back in the 90s. So as a gift from the board, I appreciate everything that I'm asking for.
Maybe on your 30th
Because Mike Quinlan will be my successor, so I've asked Mike to come by and kind of see how the process goes. You know, he can hear no, just like I've heard no for 29 years. When you look at what I've done in the budget, so the two things that probably show the biggest increases are assistant department head, which is the 2 assistant state's attorneys. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And then when you go down to education and dues expense, This year it's 10,000. It looks like the projection may be 11.3. I've asked for 12, just to kind of be more in line with historically what that has been. It's kind of been all over the place. But dues and expenses mainly is the appellate prosecutor's office. That's that $10,000 that we pay them to handle all of our appeals. They also provide us with education benefits, and CLE hours through the year. But mainly their function for us is appeals. And that's a hell of a bargain. You know, if you hired an attorney to do our appeals, well over $100,000 is asking an attorney to handle that volume. So, you know, the $10,000, I think it's 10,000, isn't it?
And yeah.
Nine or 10. It's a heck of a bargain. Criminal prosecution, this year it's budgeted for 7. Looks like we're going to be closer to 10 projection-wise. Although actual it's only 4,600. So there's some play there. Next year I think we'll probably have a double murder trial. Mike?
Yeah, Peterson will go to trial in 2025.
And I think most of our experts are going to be in law enforcement already on the payroll of the state agency type. The state police are handling the prosecution for that. So it doesn't look like we're going to be hiring anybody specific to
I don't have anybody as of yet, but then I'm still also waiting to see what the PD does in terms of who he brings in. He has had motions granted for private investigator, co-counsel, and this other pathologist.
Right. So that comes out of the PD budget or the judge's budget, but then if he does have an expert, we'll need to counter that expert by hiring somebody if they have something extraordinary. 2 people were murdered, so we need to make sure that's done right. So that's the only potential big expense that I can see from a criminal prosecution that is potentially out there. So going back to the ASA, so currently Mike makes about 85, Jennifer Mansberger makes about say 71, so their total is 156. I've asked for basically a 6% increase in that line item between the two. Obviously, Mike is going to be making my salary as state's attorney. And Mike's got some information we'd like to pass out in regard to assistant state's attorneys, and I'll let Mike take the floor with that thought.
And just by way of background, before I came here, in the early 2000s, I was a traffic supervisor in Katy that supervised a department of 3 attorneys and I don't know, about 6 support staff. I was involved in the hiring of all the assistant state's attorneys that came in because they came in through the traffic division from 2002 to the end of 2005. Also, when I was first assistant in Grundy County, I was also involved in hiring decisions. And basically what has occurred, and I've distilled this down, I've been working on this issue for some time. I had an attorney who is currently employed in a large state attorney's office that I previously worked with, who has expressed some interest in potentially coming in. The problem, and this person's been an attorney for 20 years, extensive prosecution experience, been through many different divisions, and currently this person is making $100,000 in their current position, and I will be talking to that person once our budget is finalized. I have another individual who's been an attorney for about 15 years, who's also currently employed with a very good employer. And both of them, when I explained to them what our current starting pay for the assistants are, we're a little leery of that, but I did mention that we would be seeking an increase in that position because unlike when I applied to law school in the late 80s when I was in college, the world of attorneys has shifted dramatically. When I graduated in '93, there was a surplus of attorneys. I mean, when I applied to SIU School of Law, there were 16 or 17 applicants for every one of the 110 seats in that entering class. And when you're when you go from law schools that used to graduate 100, 150, 200 people, SIU and NIU, whose placement directors I've talked to, they're not graduating 55 newly minted JDs every year. And what we have is, from peak enrollment in 2010 at 54,000 students, there are about 36,000 people entering law school as 1Ls now. Problem is, that means there's a 21% decrease in the number of people that are graduating law school. When I was in Grundy County, we went through a misdemeanor assistant, which was our entry-level position in that office, about every 18 months. And myself and the state's attorney, who had graduated during the peak times when people were going to and graduating from law school, we started noticing just an unbelievable small stack of resumes from newly minted law school grads that were coming in, and quite different from the early 2000s when the stacks we were getting for ASA positions in the traffic division in Kankakee. And I was completely unaware of these changing dynamics in terms of law school grads and the fewer number of attorneys that are being admitted to the Illinois bar. The problem is, it has made newly minted attorneys incredibly difficult to acquire. And the last time the Iroquois County State's Attorney's Office hired a new law grad to begin his career as an ASA was in 2009. And that is a very difficult problem, because if you got UPS drivers, as you probably have all saw in the news last fall, making $177,000 a year going around in the brown trucks delivering packages. You may have seen a few months ago, the Illinois State Police announced that new troopers are going to be making $90,000. As a result of a lot fewer people going to law school and a lot fewer people graduating and being admitted to the bar, and the number of older attorneys either dying off or retiring, there is no better time to go to law school than in the last 10 years, because you don't have much of a job search. We had a young man named Ethan who interned in our office for when he was in undergrad, all 3 years when he was in law school. He went to NIU, wanted to be a prosecutor. He knew back, like in high school, he wanted to be a prosecutor. And he was, we were ready to hire him, because right at the time he was a 7-11 who was finishing his 3rd year. We were going to have an opening, and we had to compete with Will County, so we were prepared to offer him, and this was in 2019, 2020 or so, we were going to offer him $60,000 to start, which was, that was higher than Will County, which was right next to us. Well, the problem is, a local divorce attorney who had an absolutely booming divorce practice came along and I think started Ethan in 80, 85, and because the divorce attorney didn't do criminal work, said you can take all the traffic, misdemeanor, and felony cases you can. Well, he was from Morris, so within the span of no time, he was like a volume player in terms of having a lot of private criminal cases. And we were offering 60, and I bet by the time Ethan was done his first year, probably a little over 100. By his second year, it's probably about 150,000. It is extraordinarily difficult to get somebody out of law school. And, they say location is everything when you're opening a business. Your average grad from a Chicago area law school, who's probably somebody that grew up in the northern Collier County suburbs, quite honestly, you're not going to get them to come down to Watseka if they've spent their college life, their law school life, with all the opportunity that exists in those larger areas. And in the handout that I gave everybody there, I was just reading the newest ISBA Bar Journal, and there was a judge from DuPage County who, I think he is involved in the rural practice section with the ISBA, had And it was a judge from DuPage County, and he had made a point, and that quote literally jumped off the page to me, because he said, how are you gonna get these young people to come to Watseka or Harrisburg?
You
And
mentioned our town by name.
yeah,
In the article.
and he's not from here. I mean, he's born and raised in DuPage County, had his entire career from private practice to getting on the bench up there. And so, but what he says is absolutely true. With the fewer number of law grads and the opportunities they have, for instance, Land of Lincoln and Prairie State were always, they're two organizations that help disadvantaged people. They're kind of like public defenders that help people that can't afford a lawyer out. They help them with divorces and evictions and other things. Those places are now starting at $75,000 a year, right out of law school with no experience. And for every year of experience you have, it goes up considerably. And that's why we're asking for an increase in the two assistant state's attorneys' pay, because I don't know that I can lure either of these two people who I worked with previously, who I personally know are solid and would make good prosecutors. One currently is a prosecutor, the other is in a form of prosecution, but he comes from a defense background, and luring them away from their current jobs, one, besides getting the pay up to a level that could entice them, is also the possibility, they're considerably younger than me, is the possibility that one of them might be able to be the next state's attorney. So that's why we're seeking an increase in that pay, because without an increase in pay, we're not even gonna get a new law grad. The old days of 55,000 people coming out of law school, there were always those people that didn't have a job lined up that would come and take those APB and ASA positions. They don't exist anymore.
What about on the revenue side of things? What we've talked before in the past about what we can do, because I have been here a year or 2.5 years almost, and I haven't found a printing press in the building for money. So is there anything that we can do on your side that will help increase revenue so that it'd be easy to pay these people? And the second thing is I remember my father-in-law and Judge Danell that went through your chairs and then went out into private practice and were successful because they were introduced to the community and this and that. And then, came back, some of them came back to the judge. Is that a possibility too, where, they're not professional, full-time, forever assistants in the state attorney's office, but they come over to the private practice side?
No, there's really no part-time state's attorney positions that I'm aware of.
No, I'm saying they start out and they learn the community
But yeah,
by being in your chair.
Oh, yes.
And then they go into private practice
Yeah.
where they are successful.
That
Sometimes
was,
they come back.
that was a springboard that existed
Right.
for a long time. Someone worked in the state's attorney's or PD's office 3 or 4 years, then they opened up, put a shingle out and opened up their practice. Not really seeing that. You're seeing either people going into working in the state's attorney's or PD or other governmental entities' office, or you're seeing people, and a lot of people, because of the opening of the opportunity in the private sector, those medium and large firms that are now shedding older attorneys that are dying and retiring, that's sucking a lot of people up, because you don't have to have the biggest, most powerful 500 attorney firm. There are firms out there that will start pulling out of law school over $100,000 a year. And nobody is going to take an assistant state's attorney position 60, 70, even if you get up to a lot of times 80 when there's $100,000, and the potential partnership track and the pay goes up pretty quickly once you prove yourself as an associate, which is why, and I think Jim can address this more fully on his own efforts in terms of during the year or the times there have been gaps in the office of getting somebody in here, how difficult that is. It's my absolute fluke that I ended up in this office. I heard about this office being down. I never saw an ad for an opening anywhere, but then again, I wasn't open at every place. And, like I said, the last time someone out of law school came to work here was 2009. Right now, it's people from Kankakee County. It's myself and Jennifer Mansberger. The other two people who I'm talking about are also, they reside in Kankakee. They work outside of Kankakee. But that's where it's going to, is basically trying to find an existing attorney who you might be able to convince to come and work, and take a pay cut, come in here and work as an assistant, with the potential opportunity that in the not too distant future, they could be state's attorneys.
We're just not getting people to move to the area. I mean,
Right.
essentially Iroquois County and a lot of rural counties are just what they call legal deserts. I mean, look at IMH, I'm sure you're familiar with, I mean, everybody who employs professional people is having, in this area, having a real problem trying to attract professionals to move here. Veterinarians, accountants, dentists, I mean, you look at the whole spectrum of professionals, it's hard to attract people to come here. And then you got the other problem with newly minted attorneys, is this huge debt that they have. I mean, law school is so much more expensive than it was when Mike and I went. And so the debt that these kids have with college and law school, it's incredible. So, I mean, there is a benefit to working for a government entity. If you work there 10 years, you can get a certain amount of debt forgiveness. But you got to do it for 10, not necessarily 10 consecutive years, but 10 years overall, which is an attractiveness that we try and harp on, but it's just getting people through the door.
Bottom line, the only way to get them is we need more money.
Well, that's the first enticement, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, that.
I guess I wanted to make a point of interest to the comments you're making about graduates or new attorneys starting at 75,000. Veterinarians graduating from the U of I are starting at twice that. Twice that. And their benefits packages are out of this world.
Well, John, to give you some context, my best friend from college, his son graduated from Notre Dame in the spring of '23 with a degree in physics. He got a job with this large, it's a company in Madison that supplies computers and software to hospitals, pharmaceutical companies. They specialize in the medical industry. Straight out of college with just a 4-year degree, not a post-college vet degree or an MD or a JD. He started at $85,000 a year. That was for entry-level position #1, customer service rep. And when undergrads are making $85,000 a year, that's one reason a lot of people are like, well, what the hell do I need to go to law school for 3 years for? If Prairie State's gonna pay me 70 or 75 and I can go work at this company and spend 3 years making that money. That's one of the reasons is.
So, not to put any pressure on you, but the judge has been waiting out in the hallway for 10 minutes, so.
Oh, but we're more important than that.
We'll tell him that.
Do you understand that deputy clerk going to 0? Your deputy clerk.
No, it didn't go to.
Well, it says the 225
okay.
budget is 0 for the.
All right, yeah, so that's essentially Donna.
Joyce, deputy clerk is Joyce.
Is that Joyce? Okay, Joyce is 0 because she's fully funded grant-wise out of Kankakee.
Oh,
Yeah, she was only funded 50% through a Harbor House grant, and now there's a new victim coordinators grant out of Kankakee County that covers her benefits and everything.
For, do you take that to be forever or just this year?
She's well aware, you live by the grant, you die by the grant.
Yes, yes.
So as long as that grant's available, she has a job, that grant goes away. Oh, but I think the grant has been there a while.
It has, and when I talked to Ms. Chamberlain, who is in Kankakee County, she oversees this grant, because I have to turn in all of Joyce's salary and benefit information monthly to her for reimbursement.
Okay.
She believes that there's a good possibility it'll be around for a while.
I just didn't want to see a big surprise next year where it got handed back to the line and all right. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a risk I took in going with that, but you know, with the thought that it's gonna be there for a while, I dug in. Thank you. All right, I
That's
appreciate
good.
your attention.
No, it's
Consideration.
good to understand.
Yes.
I think
some of these are just kind of in and out. Yeah, not worth hardly spending time talking on, but the couple that stand out, I guess, that maybe we can hit the highlights, the drug-free communities fund.
So that is for grant as well, that's 100%.
Everybody, yep,
So
okay.
that's Jennifer McTaggart and Sarah Cree are the two persons who administer that, and it's completely, it's in and out of my budget. They have to have a sponsor, basically, or employer, and so they chose my office to be the employer. I don't have any direction really over what they do. They're self-directed, they do their own thing. I told
The tip
them,
of the scales for us.
I kind of remember that.
yeah, I said, I don't want to know what you do, just do what you do.
It's a 5-year program,
Yeah,
so they're gonna be up for April,
they're in their third year,
no,
fourth year here. They expect that will be renewed.
yeah, yeah, they're done with
Yes,
it.
Okay, I think the other ones are kind of, yeah, non-events, yeah, okay, so.
Very good.
All right,
Thank you very much.
be in touch.
Just remember my plea, this is a great present.
Understood.
The other animal control fund is 460, and that's the low cost spray and neuter program that's offered, so I'm not spending any money.
Okay,
They're not animal controls, but.
all right. Okay, so.
What else can we spend that money? You could only spend it, you could only spend that money on low cost spay and neuter programs, because it's the animal control population fund. So $10 of any unfixed cat or dog registration that we receive goes into that fund, and it just didn't like I have put in a request to make sure that the animals that leave are spayed and
No,
neutered.
it's not.
Like I said, that's why I was before pause, and then they get this $136 down to the so that's pretty cheap,
Where would you like me, right here?
so.
How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing all right. How about
yourself?
I'm not a lot better than those either.
People happy. It's like, that's all.
I don't know what they're doing.
Well, let's just go. You're a busy man, so Rich, we got, what we have in front of us is on page 53, general fund courts.
Okay.
It's the chief deputy salary, bailiff, and so forth.
Right.
I guess, is there any highlights here or? Looks
No, I mean, it's,
pretty in line with
yeah,
last
some
year.
it's pretty straightforward. I think some of these are kind of tough to predict. You can see I don't expect to have as many, special attorney hires, just given the fact that we're now fully staffed with public defenders, and assistant public defenders. I don't think the special attorney hire is gonna be as much as it may have been in the past. That's why that's lower. And the court services, that has increased, that includes when we have somebody that has to be evaluated for fitness or criminal responsibility or something else. We see more and more people coming through the court system that have mental health issues, and a lot of times that results in fitness evaluations. And again, it's tough to predict exactly how many of those there will be, but they seem to be increasing. Other than that, I think it's fairly straightforward. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them.
Thank you. If no one else does, then. Yeah. The next 2 pages, we have the jurors. That's just a standard number that we use year in, year out in the law library, which looks like the same as every other year.
You're not looking at upping the juror pay or anything?
No,
They looked at that.
not
2
next
years
year anyway.
ago.
No, I mean, it's low obviously, but I think we're where we need to be. It's comparable to what peers are getting paid in other counties.
Well, that's maybe set by the state, isn't it?
There's a minimum set by the state, yes. Well, that's
I
it.
think we're okay. Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good rest of your day.
And I think,
Oh, okay, yep.
You want him to come in?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Hello, good morning. Hi. Okay, we're on, for our sakes, we're on page 57, which is the 110 general fund, 250 public defender budget. We got that, one other page. Yes. Maybe just salaries and office supplies on that one.
That is correct. What we've had, just like the introduction, first met you last year, I think we've had a pretty smooth transition from the past couple people to do it, and the three, myself, and the two, now an extra assistant that we have now. We've had some benefits from a technology fund that has been handled in coordination with Kankakee County, and put together an office in the law library there with money that hasn't had to come out of the general fund at all.
Okay.
To this point, we've got some supplies in here because we may have to do that once we get the workstation set up and some of the other things. We benefited in that regard, and from the Safety Act, Utah Fairness Act Special Fund, we were able to get another part-time contract public defender to help with juvenile cases, and first time it was strictly the juvenile cases there. Since taking over with it, I had 138 cases that I inherited last year, I believe, was that my count. And then it's kind of, once we took those pending cases, I think my number this year is on 30 new felony cases. Since the start of calendar year 24 for me, and I don't know what the others probably are in some proportion to that. One attorney does misdemeanors, and the other kind of does a combination of misdemeanors and felonies. I'm directing the major felonies to myself, and as you're probably aware, we had a double homicide come up in August last year. And so just want to give you kind of an idea of where some of the funds are coming from, some of the things that we benefited from, and what's going on. I did have about $12,000 in carryover funds from the Public Defender Fund this year. They're budgeted for in next year's budget, but I wanted to do that in case there was a lapse in them getting funds to us, because our fourth PD is not being paid from Fund 110. And I wanted to make sure she's paid for a couple months if there's a delay in the state getting the funds without having to lay her off or go to you guys or do something else. So I hope that answers some of any questions you have, or is a bit overview of things, but I'll take any questions.
You have a very nice suit on, nicer than what previous presenters had.
Even just the
I didn't see. But my point is your assistant public defender, do they have other income sources besides?
well, one, yes, Neely Regas, who is hired out of the PD fund, the special
Yeah,
PD
yeah.
fund. She has practice in Kankakee. Chuck Lauer is kind of retired, semi-retired out of Cook County. I think he's the special hire attorney. He gets some of his funds out of here and some out of the other.
Good, thank you, you built it.
No, I have
Yeah.
a full-time practice. The others are kind of in semi-retirement and. My office is in Paxton. The former Diltro Dean and Gibson, I bought that firm after Jerry passed away.
Okay, I don't think I have any questions, but that gives us the lay of the land, and we'll, if somebody has any other questions, we'll keep doing this process and let you know where we end up, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thanks for your time. Take care up, Tom. Yep. We're on page 59 for general fund probation. Good morning.
Somebody left this road to run a house.
I can always fill in, but she.
Jill's got a lot of pages to go through. We'll fill it out.
All right. Well, with the probation general fund budget, like usual, the only increase is the salary, which is covered dollar for dollar in the salary reimbursement from the state. We're fully funded.
Yep.
So the revenue will match the salaries. And the operations side of it is unchanged from last year. So,
Okay.
you know, that's
Fix that.
it got set by the dermatologist a short time ago. That's okay. Had to get in a fight, but that was pretty rough here. But, so really, it's really simple, so.
Sure.
Yeah, the revenue, I always go on the conservative side, because there's steps involved throughout the year and everything, so I always put that, that'll be the base. On the base side, I like to kind of go high with it. Sure. You know, so.
And the next one we had was probation services fee. That's unchanged, so not too exciting.
Yeah.
The same with the probation ops fee. Same with court services. You're not very, you're pretty boring, Tom.
Now, I would say, on the balances of the revenue coming in on the ops fee and the probation service fee, we had a little mismatch from what Lisa did, we'll talk later.
Yeah, the treasurer's office is a little behind on reporting revenues, so that will probably account for the
Okay, Lisa said something like that,
Yeah.
we were talking, so, okay, thanks, we'll talk.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
But, should we know that?
Yeah.
The good news is we keep finding us.
Yeah.
You know, it keeps it in the state.
Yes. Unless one of you have questions on, we probably wasted your time.
No, going over to the office now and, yeah, stuff over there, so.
Very good.
You just got to get these, so.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
You have to look at the full holiday.
It's like the 10th time this summer I've had these at. Although from when I was young, you know, and then,
I had some on my back.
and the temple.
That's a sensitive spot, yeah.
Not being a wimp.
You walk with a limp?
See you guys.
Thank you.
And Jill, I'll be,
Okay.
maybe Friday.
Yep, up here.
Did you see my probation officer? They get a-
Didn't ask.
See that, that's a good thing.
Yeah, they had a pretty big increase and they have a lower amount of hours that they worked. They only worked 1,950 hours versus the 2,880 hours.
But isn't it state driven?
Yeah, the state reimburses their salaries but their union negotiation contract was just renewed. And we don't really have anything to do with that because they're based out of Kankakee. So when it comes to contract, yeah, it's a little.
Well, it'd be nice if the guy could sign off on it.
Should have asked before you signed your name.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Whatever the negotiations go, the head judge just pretty much decides what their salary is gonna be and he signs and that's what it is.
The head judge?
The head judge and me.
And Kankakee.
Just formality for you.
They just wanted your stuff.
I realized that, but I thought.
Somebody use a stamp you get denied.
Which one are we looking at, Joe?
Oh. I guess we'll go to 510, so. It's page 68. This is the finance / IT budget. General increases for Amanda and myself. The difference I wanna make here, you'll see the deputy clerk line is 0, you'll see an added chief deputy line. Lacey has been with me for 5 years, and I have given her more and more responsibilities. Especially since I've been giving more and more responsibilities. She also has been able to take over some of the phone calls that I've had with any of the department heads, having questions about their revenue and expense reports or any of their claims. The other good thing about Lacey is she knows the treasurer's office. She can go over and do anything in the treasurer's office as far as, so not only does she do animal control and accounts payable for me, she knows the treasurer's office duties of the deputy clerk as well, as far as taking questions, phone calls on tax inquiries, tax bills, and answering any questions that pertain to how people go about changing or amending or doing any of that kind of stuff with their tax bill. So that is one request that I'm making, is to promote her to a chief deputy versus a deputy clerk. And based off of some of our, huh?
She locks up the building and.
Oh, yes, she locks the building every night too. It saves Chris from having to come back and do it, because he works earlier in the day and gets off earlier. So
You're saying her salary would go from or her pay, excuse me, would go from the $30,000 in the budget of 24 to what you budget at 32,750, and
yeah, I try to stay conservative about what the chief deputies are currently making, versus where a lot of the requests came in for chief deputies. And I thought, that'd be a good starting point. Again, it's a request. Yeah, I have her at $18 an hour, which is what the chief deputies and like the clerk's office and whatnot, they're comparable. So that was my request for that. Office expense, I kept the same. Computer copy paper, I kept the same. I still get a really good deal through Quill because we are a member. I lowered systems expenses, which, based off of trend, and the other thing is too, is with having Adam here weekly, that has really reduced, some of the major malfunctions that we were seeing in the past, because he is well aware, he knows our systems inside and out, versus just having a random tech come down when we have issues. He has also updated and fixed a lot of the, I don't want to call them bugs, but bugs that, are seen immediately versus down the road when they could cause issues to our equipment. So I did lower that. Publications I kept the same, mileage and travel I kept the same, education and dues I kept the same. Software contract licenses, again, I lowered that a little bit too, because with having him on site once a week, we're not having to call out, and we get a major discount on the dollars per hour when he's on site for that service contract versus if we have to call somebody out. I kept service contracts the same, maintenance, repair, and contingent the same. That's it for that one.
Okay.
Let's see here. So my next one is the General Fund County Board. I don't have much to do with this one, but I oversee it and I report on it. So the deputy head salary line is staying the same as far as I know. That's how much money that the county board chairman brings in for being the county board chairman. The assistant deputy head is the vice chairman. As far as I know, there was no changes to that, or there will be no changes to that. County board members, I kept that at 8,000. It seems to be okay on trend. And what that is that is the meetings that you attend for the county board. Committee services are your committee meetings that you attend as well. Office expense, I kept that the same. Publications, we kept the same. Mileage and travel, I kept the same based off of the trend. Dues is always the same unless UCCI increases their dues. I lowered legal fees a bit. We're able to take some of our legal fees, if we have any, out of our liability fund. Now that we have ICRMT, that was one thing that they had suggested to us, so I lowered it a bit. Plus, we really haven't, had much in the past 5-year trend with that one. Auditor fees, I am hoping that if we can appropriate all of the ARPA funding this fiscal year, next year will be our last year for a single audit, unless some major federal funding or grant comes through, but
How
so,
much timeline do we need to put that out for bid? I mean, I know probably now it's too late, but
now it's too late,
but like how much of a headway do we need for that?
I'm not sure. I could go back and look to see what was done in the past. But we've had Clifton Larson Allen since I've been here. I'm still currently working through the audit for fiscal year 23. They have everything they need from me. We're just working through now I provide them with a CFR and a CIFR audit, which is our grants. It has to do with, any of the grants that the county holds, the sheriff's office holds, highway holds, public health has quite a few grants, it's how they're mostly funded. And since their main financial officer had retired and left a few years ago, I've had difficulties in the past couple of years with getting information from the health department financial officer. So we are currently working through some of those questions. I have taken the responsibility of actually I go to the treasurer's office, pull all their receipts, and I've been recording the revenues, and that seems to help. That helped us last year. It's really helped this year. So hopefully we'll work through that. But that single audit, it does add a lot of additional work. So it'll be nice when that can fall off.
Are we getting reimbursed somehow from the health fund and the?
So the health department has always transferred over to the general fund for IT services, and utility services this year. Previously, it has been at 25,000. We just asked for 30,000 this year to kind of get a starting point of where that would be, since we have increased the amount of HR services we provided and audit services over the past year. Over the past 3 years, so.
We're gonna come up with an accurate
Well, there's no
amount.
good way to kind of come up with an accurate amount because, I don't sit there and itemize my day, Amanda doesn't either. So to kind of tell you how much time we spend on things for this department or that department, that's gonna be really tough. I do have the auditor separating any health department related bills, so that'll be easier to track.
Well, and
But
That
as
was one
far
of the
as, like,
things that Jill had asked because we talked about this. She was
Right.
gonna ask them to start doing that, but
that's happened this year in 24.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, you don't know that number yet then?
Not yet, no.
Hopefully
We
by
just
next
got
year
it,
we'll
they
have a
just
real
started
number.
asking me questions and things about the single audit and the grant audit, so. I'm assuming I would start seeing some bills here in the next month or so. Utilities, again, they don't pay rent, so, our previous building costs for the rents that we charge, was at $11 an hour. I know those are coming due, next year, so we'll have that
$11
discussion next,
square foot.
$11 a square foot.
Right.
Those will be coming up next year and we'll have to look at those and revamp that. I'm sure that'll go up. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly.
Okay.
IT services, I do have them paying their own special bills, but they do utilize it at them on Tuesdays, so a portion of that. So that's kind of where we were at.
I mean, I think longer term, if big changes are made here.
Mhm.
Don't they have a financial person or something?
They do, they have a financial officer. In the
And
past, it
this is
was.
the ridiculousness of this, is that like, it is what it is at this point, but like going forward, that person should be dealing with, I would think should be dealing with the HR issues and the financial issues, and this shouldn't be like a burden on these two. And this has been the problem for
I mean,
very
it's,
long.
since I've been here.
And
Now,
that was kind of what we talked about with the audit too, is that like, look, it's one thing if we get a better deal to have it under one umbrella, but quite frankly, they're a separate entity entirely. And that was, I think, what's starting to transpire here, but they should pay their own audit fee. And if they want to send in one big bill and, okay, this is for them, or I don't know, it's one big engagement, so be it. But like, there's no reason, especially when they were driving a lot of these single audits and all that kind of stuff. By the time we get it all figured out, then it'll probably go back to nothing, but.
Yeah, we
or
had
not
never had a
nothing, but
single audit until
Yeah.
the COVID contract
COVID
tracing.
stuff.
And then that threw us into, having to do a single audit and then ARPA. So now, like I said, if we can expend all of our ARPA monies by the end of this year, then hopefully next year will be the last time we have to do a single audit.
That would be good.
Mhm.
But yes, they need to. And as far as my question with, just so everybody understands the history a little bit. When Anita was here, it was, for those of you that weren't here, the old Jill. She's in Kankakee County. She and I had talked about, well, we need to put this out for bid into months now. I mean, so we're going on, how many years is this now? 5,
I've
6?
been here 6,
Okay.
so.
So that was, I mean, literally, we were talking about that right before she resigned. We had several meetings with Clifton Larson, and she and I did, and just hold my comments about it. But that was like, okay, we're gonna do this. She left, and it was kind of like, okay, trying to, obviously Jill's now, the office is working very well, but in the moment there's a lot of chaos for everyone. And like, okay, now switching the auditors and doing all that kind of stuff, or potentially, not saying that was what was gonna happen, but putting it out for bid, maybe this isn't the time to be changing all this stuff. So it's kind of got put on the back burner for probably too long.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been a bid or anything, or even a discussion with other firms since
Yeah, we talked
probably
about it a couple
8,
years
9
ago, and
years.
then I think that, you know, with the changes happening in the health department and then doing the single audit, it got put on the back.
And it keeps getting, so we probably need to keep that on our radar to take, at least have those conversations, because I don't know that there's anybody actually better, but it's worth looking at. There were problems with the last one as well.
It probably just needs to be done,
Yeah, it just needs to be done no matter what, whether we decide to change or not. Keep everybody on their toes and honest. So that's the background with that. But, okay,
You want me to go on?
yes,
Alright, so general fund 110, this is an other fund that comes out of our general fund, and this fund has the group insurance share for county employees. I'm using 13% for now. Susie doesn't have rates yet, or an idea of rates. I typically use 10, but everything I've kind of read and went through, I'd rather have more, that way we can decrease it if we get some better numbers in, which Susie will, we will get better numbers, I guarantee that. Employee benefits, this is the half rate sick pay that we pay out one time a year, it's usually done at the end of the fiscal year. On trend, I have a little box down there, I budgeted at 28,000. Soil and water is the same. In IDA, which is the Industrial Development Association line, I left that at 25,000, I haven't officially gotten Angel's request, so I just left it at 25. Birth certificate, this is kind of an in and out deal, so 400 in expense for that. The Regional Office of Education, we heard from Frank yesterday, his request is 98,141. The transfer to joint dispatch, I increased that 5% as that was kind of what was discussed last year. I don't have his request for what he's asking, and I mean Eric Raymond for joint dispatch. I have had a discussion with him, and he is supposedly at his August 6th meeting, ETSB meeting, gonna have a big discussion on fees and transfer of funds. So I'm planning on attending the August 6th meeting for ETSB, just to kind of hear that.
I think I went to it last year.
Yeah,
Probably
because I
would.
could go. Right, exactly. I just stuck that 5% increase in there because was kind of talked about last year, so.
No, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
We understand who's calling the shots.
Yeah, I know, I know.
It should be us in the city.
I know this, but to kind of give you an idea, the general fund always puts more money into joint dispatch than whatever is listed here on this line for transfer to joint dispatch, because for the past 6 years that I've been here, the joint dispatch fund is always in the negative come towards the end of our fiscal year, and I always request to have, money put into that fund, so we're not showing a negative balance for the audit. I did not do that last year. The reason I did not do that last year is because I had no idea where our revenues were at. The treasurer's office has went through some transitions and they were extremely behind last year. They're still behind, but I think a little better. But I didn't have an accurate number to even begin to tell you what to transfer.
I think we need to have, on that note, maybe when we get done, after Lisa's done, I think we need to have another conversation with Kurt about that.
He's
because that
not
did-
here today.
Well, that didn't really come up.
Maybe at our committee meeting.
At the finance committee meeting, we need to have another discussion about this because
He is at the treasurer's conference the rest of the week.
I thought we were doing better after last finance meeting. I thought this was getting better
Yeah.
and
Well,
there's been multiple comments ever.
they're not like
Post-Tiffany.
6 months behind.
Well,
Now they're
I know there's
working three.
improvement, but we need to
But-
maybe have a real discussion about that, but
Yeah.
like, this is a problem and it's causing everybody else problems.
When is it gonna be fixed?
Right, so, yes, maybe put that on the agenda or whatever for our next meeting.
The
Okay.
last thing in that fund is just the contingent, and it's been 50,000. We just took 50,000, there's the beginning of time, just in case, you never know. Okay, so,
What is it that causes joint dispatch to be?
Have you been to a meeting with these people?
No.
salary, overtime,
Okay,
I mean, he's been short of dispatch now for a couple months. Position. He's got one out on maternity leave right now, so he's actually short 2 right now, so the overtime is just. And
Who are the board members now on there? Charlie and who else?
at ETSB,
When there used to be 2? I mean, I guess that's ETSB. now,
well,
joint
Joe was
dispatch.
on there
Joe was
for,
on there.
Joe Young was on there for the system part, fire,
Not as
whatever
a board
position.
member.
Just Charlie from the county board, I think, now.
Charlie's the only one. Ambulance guy from Clifton, whoever, he's on there. Fire chief from Sheldon's on. The guy Shipper from Wilford is on there.
Marcotte from West
I can picture their faces, I don't know the name of them, yeah.
Joint dispatch is basically just salaries. Alright, so Fund 115 is a separate fund, it's not the general fund, and it's our group insurance fund. So again, I did my best, I put it at 13%, we'll see what Suzie comes back with, it's usually always better, so those may go down or whatnot. This is based off of the number of employees that have been requested and currently have insurance or dental or vision or life. So this is a fluctuating fund as we hire people, lose people, people drop insurance, they add insurance. But the dental is always gonna be in and out for the revenue side and the expense line because that is 100% paid by employee. As is vision. The health portion, the difference between those two numbers you'll see is the county pays 25% of an employee's health insurance if it's employee only. If they have employee spouse or children or family, they only pay 50%, so there's always gonna be a fluctuation there. HRA, those are the HRA funds that go for paying the difference in deductibles as the county offers a certain deductible rate and they pay for some of it. And then life insurance, that also was worked into the life insurance that the county offers. We offers $10,000 worth of life insurance as part of an employee package. Right, until I get more numbers in front of me, that's what that's at. 120 is our unemployment compensation. A little different here. Keep the property tax the same at 7,000. That fund tentatively has 181,000 in it, so I don't really think we need to increase that any. Interests, we've been getting a little better interest rate. Kurt is very good at finding those better interest rates, so I will give him that. Transfer from other funds, that's gonna be like your health department and highway. Veterans assistance, JJC, which is the drug-free community girls. Joint dispatch and 911, I make sheets out for them every month saying this is what you owe me for A, B, and C. They take a check into the treasurer's office for deposit. So those are where those monies come from. Unemployment tax is listed there. I'm projecting about $21,336.30, and that's based off of the box below, which is the expense assumptions for the county and each individual entity. Because I also sent the HH is that victim witness coordinator that Mr. Devine was talking about. So kind of that's where I get that number from.
What?
Yeah.
Not that it's a lot of money, but like this public health department one, should we be getting money from them for that, or is that in the transfers from other funds line?
That's in the transfers from other funds line.
Okay.
And their unemployment compensation, they are well aware, I have a letter, I book that entry twice a year. All right, so workers' comp is page 73. Workers' comp, property taxes, I'm gonna keep the same. We're showing a $61,000 balance in there. I think that's gonna be a little higher once they get everything inputted for revenues. I always put 0 for refund and reimbursements, because, hopefully we don't have any, but sometimes we do. Interest, I raised a little bit. The transfer from other funds works the same way as the last fund. That's gonna be health department, highway, or anything else that we have. Veterans is separate. ADHD, 911, and joint dispatch is on there. I'm projecting 128,750 for workers' comp. That's based off of, again, the expense assumptions listed below. In the past, I did our workers' comp audit. Since we switched to ICRMT, they do it for us, which has been kind of nice. 174, which is page 74, fund 130, which is liability insurance. Don't have much to say about this one. I am gonna increase the property tax to $285 from $265, as the balance in that account is only $34,000. I always I have been budgeting $10,000 in insurance reimbursements. Those should be coming in and basically out, because that's the money that we will receive from insurance to pay for any of the, I'm gonna pick on sheriff, any of the vehicles that need to be repaired. Interest, I kept it at 1,000. Liability insurance, I lowered it just a hair because they've been taking additional certain departments have been taking additional classes, through ICRMT to lower our risks. So I'm hoping that will have an impact on the fees that were charged. Miscellaneous, I always budget that at 0. That's fine.
Myron gonna give us, or he's supposed to what? Give us a number or what?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll have a better number if I need to do it, adjust it or whatnot from Myron as it gets a little closer to the time we need to approve it for public viewing.
Yep.
That's just how the insurance funds are. 135 is the retirement IMRF fund. And this is on page 75. With that fund having approximately $3.3 million in it as a balance, I'm still gonna levy 0 for the property taxes. That's one of those funds where, yeah, you wanna have it funded, and we are currently fully funded. But you don't wanna have it so overfunded that you have, union contracts coming back requesting more. Interest on investments, I did raise it, Kurt got us a better interest rate. This works the same as all the other ones, the transfer from other funds, veterans assistance, JJC, 911 joint dispatch, and those figures are on the bottom of how I came up with them. The county share of retirement, this is what the county contributes for IMRF, which is always a different rate. I get those rates in January from IMRF. It's been really low the last couple of years, so I lowered it again because it got lowered again. It was 2.72%, and this year it's currently at 2.08. So that may change. I won't know until January.
Yep.
Same thing with the other lines following. You'll see 911 joint dispatch. They contribute from their fund into that. So 10:30. So do you want me to keep going, or would you like to talk?
Well, maybe let's just, this retirement FICA on page 76, I mean, that's not too eventful, it's just based off the requests.
I can continue after if you want to do Lisa first.
I was gonna say, it, but
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be.
there's nothing really
These
to
are
say
all
about it
pretty
too much, yeah. The county farm, we probably need to talk about, but I don't know that the fight, I don't know that the FICA one's a big excitement.
Summer was up.
Okay, Lisa? Okay. We begin on, page 3, the revenue stuff.
Oh, boy. Okay, and circuit clerk fees, that was, okay.
Yeah, it starts with,
Put 200, we are turning a bunch of tickets right now from really old, a ton of them to collections, so we've had some times the judges going through those with us, and we have turned over quite a bit, so we'll see, these fees might be going up.
Okay.
Next year, I don't know, I mean, it just depends, if they pay, they pay. Traffic fines, 20,000. I did kind of get a printout from the treasurer's office, and some of my fees were not in that line item. So it should be, instead of like 8,052, I think it should be a little higher.
I think he's behind, is the problem.
Okay, it's because something's.
Yeah,
There
I would go
was-
with what your numbers are.
There was 2 things that, definitely different numbers that I don't know where they're at, but they're not in there.
What do you see?
I see estimating probably 20, I'd have 20,000. I'd say a little more, but I don't,
Yeah, that's fine.
so, criminal fines, 25. Same with state's attorney's fees, $11,000 I put. That was actual.
Right, yeah.
Is that what we talked about last year, that there's something that it's the state's attorney or that office that helps?
That might be
Generate
state's
those.
attorney automation,
Okay.
because he has 2 different line items.
I was thinking there's something over there that they can control to help boost revenue.
They,
Is that just the
that
obligation?
is with collections. And if the more he turns over, I mean, sometimes that's why when we said,
Oh.
hey, we have a bunch of fees or a bunch of tickets that probably need to be gone through, and because we have to have a judge's signature in court, of course, to do that, and so that's probably what it is. Animal control, 500. Circuit clerk, public defender fees, they've been charging quite a bit on that, so, and people, it's just, fees are a little down because of that Safety Act, because people aren't posting bonds. And they're counting on them to pay. corporate drug fund, 300, just depends if they assess it or not, or how many people had drugs on them when they were arrested. County fees, 300, that was because of our assessment that had went down, when the new assessments went into effect 2 years ago, so it's gonna probably just stay about that. I think there was a few that were missing, fund as well. And then court costs will just be 35,000.
Okay.
So. And then I did put negotiable for a transfer out of automation and document storage if you need it, or if you want, you can come and talk to me or whatever, and I would be glad to, but for now, I didn't put anything.
It looked like overall, most of the revenues are down in anticipation of them.
Down a little bit, just, it's never know. I mean, I can say that, I thought they'd really be down and they're not that bad, so.
Okay,
And then,
so our page is
77.
no 67.
Yeah, 63, 65, I think he's good.
that's nice on yours, the automation. No,
Well, it should be general fund circuit clerk, the 110, 245. is the
Okay.
first one of ours,
that's just the
salaries.
salaries, it's 307, 485, 77. Just have to tell them what they plugged in with raises and things like that. I do have a gal that's gonna retire the end of this year. So I will have to replace her, and there's also an opening that we have never replaced that I put in there. So I would like to do that, due to, we have so many judges that come from Kankakee that if I have 3 girls that are out of the office that clerk, then we only have like 1 for each room, plus the phone, and it's just, we need somebody.
Next one we have is the court document storage fund.
Okay, but the revenue is 40. I anticipate that down a little bit as well. And then my expenses, I put 30,000. Usually out of this, I pay for file folders and microfilm, just a lot, and that's microfilming. I kind of want to do that next year a little bit, so that's why the 30,000's out of there. And then transfer to historical document, I did 15 this year. They had called me and asked, and they do a lot for me. So if we have people that want to look up stuff, sometimes they'll go there and they have the same microfilm we do, so.
Automation,
Same thing, 40,000, the expenses, I put 25,000. That's all our software, everything, maintenance with that, usually that runs about 15,000 a year, so.
Okay.
And that's it.
Are you on your microfiche, are you also scanning documents, both?
We do.
Okay. Brianne brought it to our attention yesterday that there's reasons to do both.
Yes, you have by statute, you have to do both. By statute, I have to keep documents, I can't do away with them ever. And then there's documents that you have to microfilm and scan. And there's some that in 2 years you can just destroy, like some traffic tickets that are paid and like a wills, probates, felonies, all that, I have to keep forever. So that's why downstairs we try and do so much microfilm here so we have more room. I'm running out of room. I don't want to hog the downstairs.
Does microfilm count for keeping the record, as
Mhm.
you're saying? Okay.
It's the statutes sometimes don't allow for certain case types, so.
You know what you're doing.
Yeah, so it is. Any questions?
Getting easier to hire people.
It is. I just told him yesterday with the $16 an hour, it's awesome. I mean, And the girls with their faces are very happy, so.
See, we're not all horrible.
No!
All right, thank you.
You bet.
Okay, so I think we go back to page 77, or 76.
I mean, there's not much to say about 76, the property tax levy request, I'm gonna keep it 368, that fund. Tentatively is setting at 775,000. That's gonna just basically be off the number of employees we have. And, how much that FICA we have to pay back. Not good on that one, that one's easy.
Thank you.
Alright, 77 is, page 77 is Fund 150. And Fund 150 is county farm. This one will obviously change after we open up bids, to see what that's gonna entail. I did just put a number in there of 150. I don't know until after bids are open. They are out now, on the website, so I don't remember when they're gonna be open, but we should know more before then. Farm expense, I stuck in 60,630, kind of an estimate on what fertilizer is gonna cost. I am by all means not a farmer, so I have no clue. That's just, what I am projecting off of things that I have read and past numbers, so.
And that's reimbursed though, right?
It is, yeah, so that number, will get reimbursed. After we know what it is, but. And then the transfer, I decided this year to go ahead and transfer, I have not transferred anything out of county farm for the past 2 years. This year, I did transfer 50,000 to the general fund and 50,000 to the capital improvements fund. The capital improvements fund was getting kind of low and I hate for anything major to happen when we would need additional funds out of there. So I don't have to transfer 50 to the general fund, or we can, that's kind of up to what this committee would like to do, especially since we're showing 50,000 to the black now, so. Hold off on making a decision until we know more maybe about the insurance.
You're open that when? In geography. So. When, if we don't transfer anything now, and then say a major capital improvement comes up that needs money, do we have to open the budget to do that? So we're better off to transfer it, but then there's no way to move it back if we do transfer it. What happens?
Right, and it just makes sense in the capital improvement fund.
How much is in the capital improvement fund? Good evening.
Capital improvement is, oh, sorry. 145 is Chris, real. Page 14, page 14. Oh, I didn't put a number down there. Give me 2 seconds, I'll get
Oh,
it.
well,
Not the end of the world.
I mean, basically, we need to start getting something in the capital improvement fund because we've been using ARPA money to do that the last couple of years. And we're not going to be able to depend on that anymore.
Yeah, and that was kind of my thought.
Even though I don't know of any, you know, our roofs are all in good shape.
I don't either, but you never know.
The whole thing, I wouldn't worry too much about it, putting more money in there because all this stuff is, I mean, it's, all these restrictions are silly games at the end of it because we just buy a car out of there or whatever. I mean, it really.
All these restricted funds sound real great, but it's about like when the Illinois state legislature came up with the motto for school funding and then stole all the money going to school funding. It's just,
So you're saying transfer or no transfer?
I'd say just transfer it because we're gonna probably use it either way, and if for some reason we needed money over here, If you needed more money out of the public safety fund, or you needed this, you just pay for a car out of there, that's.
Capital information, or I'm sorry, the capital improvement fund, again, tentatively is showing 240,000. And I'm just thinking, you know,
Is that money stuff that we could use after, what is it, 2026, when we can start paying down that loan more? And how much is on that loan yet?
I don't know what I'm looking to be honest with you.
I mean, are we at 500,000 or 750?
It seems to me there's a restriction on capital improvement fund, that you can't carry money forward from there.
Unless it's ear tagged specifically for something. So if you wanted to start building a fund to put up a new building and you knew you couldn't fund it all at once, you could ear tag it for it, if I recall correctly.
And I think in this past, we've talked about, you know, the possibility of having to do something with the jail.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, and again, we can transfer it, we don't have to. I'm just kind of putting it out there that we put
I have a
that fund
sneaky
back up.
suspicion that rent number's not gonna be as high as it was. Price point is right today, so probably it's a futile conversation until that happens.
Right. And
Figure out where
we have
we're at.
had a few people interested, but, you know, when I mentioned, yeah, we're looking forward to a $500 break or bid, it's like, no.
So that's it on county farm. My next one is page 78, which is fund 155. This is a solid waste disposal. This fund can only be used for recycling events, which we do participate in one electronic recycling event with the city of Waukegan each year. I put 8,000 in there. I don't ever know, it depends on how much they collect and all that stuff, so I did put 8,000 in there. We are showing a balance in that fund of $12,417, but there is money in a CD. So if we need to pull from it, we can.
How much is in that?
Roughly. I think that one is. That one might be 200,000. It's not a whole lot, but there's.
Looks like recycling.
Are we spending more than we're making on interest?
Yeah.
Mhm. And there's no,
We have the past couple of years, now in the past, it's been about breaking even, but, it's become such a huge event that our half has increased quite a bit over the past couple of years.
It's not to kick the can down the road, but the net impact is, we can do this for 50 years, so.
okay,
Plus,
At the rate we're going.
they're looking at other options too, I think John's looking at.
Yeah. I don't know, it's a big precedent.
I was just gonna say historically, for those of you that don't know, when we used to have the recycling center, and this is either from tipping fees or the sale of, I think, leftover tipping fees. And a previous board, I believe, years and years ago, prior to me, voted to restrict how those could be utilized, with the idea that it not end up in the general fund. So that's about what we can use it on now, is that recycling event, which means our highway department doesn't have to go out, or township people don't have to go out and clean TVs out of ditches. So.
Well, yeah, unless your TV breaks in January.
Right.
And you gotta store it.
Nobody's gonna store it for 6 months, but. But yes.
79 is the grants fund. This is where I would like to put all of the county grants. There are a couple, like the election grants, that have to have their own fund. But this has grown quite a bit. This fund used to only have like 2 line items in it. So the hazard mitigation grant line, when we spoke to Mr. Anderson, we put 0 in for 2025. We're not quite sure. He may be able to get something else, but he's not sure. The state opioid response, this is the sheriff's department. He put in that number of 15,000. The document storage state tech grant, I think that is supposed to be over, but then I talked to Drawing a blank on the name, somebody I think and they may bring that back, so we may see something in that by next year, and I'm not a guarantee. There's just a general grant revenue line that I always stick in there, I would budget it at 0, it's just if we need to stick something somewhere while I figure out or find out what exactly it is, because believe it or not, a lot of department heads kind of surprise me sometimes with not telling me about certain things, so that's why that's still in there. The Edward Byrne, JAG revenue, that's through the sheriff's department. We did receive funds for this year, he does not think we'll get them next year. The Walmart grant revenue, got $2,000 a few years ago, he is trying to reapply for that one, but it's not a guarantee, and since it's only $2,000, we did not put it in there. The Public Defender Services, Mr. Gagel was talking about some special funds that they received to give them additional pay for additional help or whatnot. Not sure if that's gonna be, and this is the one I spoke with Lori Wolf out of Kankakee County about, because this was another surprise, here's a check, I don't know where it goes. So I contacted her about it and got all the information and the grant paperwork. It's supposed to be a one-time fee, but she feels like they are going to continue it, but not as much. They will not receive as much money. So I stuck $35,000 in there. That's going to fluctuate. Minor line, that was a one-time deal. Donovan Trust is going to be hopefully another year, but more than likely just a one-time deal. Coroner death certificate surcharge grant, that number comes from the coroner. The Mary Helen Trust is through the sheriff's department. They received $5,000 this year. He does not think he'll be able to apply for it next year. The American Rescue Plan line obviously is 0. We're done receiving money from that. The Harbor House grant revenue, that grant is over. So we no longer have that one. In place is the victim witness grant that we had talked about, but I have not seen any revenues for that, so I did not put a number in yet. The local assistant and tribal funds, that's gonna be a one-time deal. That's the $100,000 that we use to paint the building for the animal control fence and the panic alarm buttons, and then I think that one's done. And the national opioid settlement revenue, he continues to get revenue from that. He's thinking $15,000 for next year, and by he, I mean the sheriff. So expenses kind of go along the lines of what the revenues come in at. Anything ARPA related that is, that were county awards are all separated out on the bottom. You can read through that. That is what's showing is left over in each one of those, so. Hopefully expect it. So, any questions? So let's get 460, I already talked about that, that's animal control related. The next one that I usually report on is page 81, which is fund 815. This is an outside organization request from County Mental Health. I have not received any correspondence from Mrs. Snodgrass or from Mr. McGinnis, because Chad usually will step in and kind of be my go-between. So I don't know what that number is, I don't know what that request is, so that's why it's blank. Hopefully I'll get answers down the road. The next one is Fund 820, which is the 377 board. They met, they got a new president. Her name is Sarah Makuda. And she did come in and speak to me after their meeting last week. They're going to be requesting $794,000 for their levy. Let's see here, Fund 830 is historical documents. You heard Lisa talk about a little bit, they requested $15,000, that's where you'll see that line item there is $15,000. So this property tax levy is gonna stay the same at $11,200 as there's additional funds in that account. I think that's it that I was on. I can Answer any questions if you haven't.
Can we look at public safety real quick?
We sure can. Public safety tax, it
86.
is paid 86.
Remind me, what was the 307,000 last year? I mean, like, that's in this year's budget.
Okay, so 307,000 from last year. Let me
The
tell you
transfer to
exactly.
joint dispatch meeting.
Or sorry, well, yeah, well,
I'll tell
yeah, I guess for everything we spent, the 429,000. For these line items.
you. Yeah. Tell you something I had in my mind. Okay, so public safety tax. So what was budgeted out of there approved for the 307,000 was, the sheriff's request for the remaining balance on the ballistic vests, new officer equipment and training, central square maintenance, the flock cameras, and one vehicle with equipment. And then joint dispatch requested, 157,000.
Well, that's why my numbers are, I just see a 307,500 is listed for joint dispatch, and that's what kind of threw me for a loop. That number seems way too big.
They requested 157,500 for joint dispatch and 150,000 for 911 for radio consoles.
All right.
Yeah.
It's like, I didn't think actual joint dispatch was, so that is actually, part of that's going to ETSB, not joint dispatch. Correct, okay.
Well, we decided to,
Just give it to joint dispatch and then
Right,
they
I made it-
ETSB gave less money to
you
make it all
know,
work
part of the
out.
discussion was, is we've always been harped on that 911 is equipment and joint dispatch is the salaries from telecommunicators. So in lieu of doing a split like Eric had requested,
We paid more.
it was suggested just to pay more towards the telecommunicator salaries, and that way that'll free up whatever he needs for ETSB.
Yep.
Although the ETSB fund tentatively is sitting at $1.2 million.
So 157 was actually joint dispatch, say that again.
We gave him 307,000 to joint
Right.
dispatch.
But 150
He asked for 150
for
to
the
be
radios.
ETSB.
Yeah, okay.
So that should be lower this year because that's taken care of.
Well.
No.
They have-
I never know what Mr. Raymond has up his sleeve.
It's-
I did have a conversation with him yesterday. I asked him just a simple, do you have kind of just a number you can throw at me that you're gonna be requesting? And I don't think I got a number, Amanda. I think I got a whole runaround of
It's
explanations.
gonna be 17 projects and
When do
rebuilding
they
a new
have to
wing
have their
and
budget?
all these kind of things.
They
and
have
you
a
gotta
meeting
whittle it down.
August 6th, and they usually present to this committee on the regular committee date, which is August 8th. So, Health Department and
quite the
Eric
annoying
usually present
process.
at the finance committee meetings. In the past, I've had him do joint dispatch here, but he asked if he could do them both at August 8th.
Do you think the sheriff's running on time?
I texted him and told him that he could come over
Or let's see if
as soon
Eric
as possible.
Hart's available.
I sent him a message,
And I got, okay.
That's right.
He's not Zooming.
I'm gonna use the restroom. We're waiting on.
No babies yet?
Where's the- yeah,
You're at the end of the runway, waiting for a control tower to give you a call. They got their house all ready and what? She works out of her house somewhat, and does he also? No. Okay. And that's not in that town, really, right there, that's down in the Twin Cities?
It's in Brainerd.
She used to mold it once in a while.
That's it.
For a couple of days.
Anything new in the hardware business?
I mean, there's always something new, but whether anybody wants the new product, it's,
Actually, your big face,
Yeah, yeah.
it's coming along. So we don't, you know anything about what 911, the joint dispatch, what?
I never got an answer out of him. And I gave up because my phone was ringing.
So who's on the current request in the box here?
Yeah.
On public
For sure.
flock cameras, Starcom radios, yearly payment.
Which it was highly discussed when it was agreed upon to do the Starcom radios that for the next 2 years, it's gonna be slim pickings out of public safety.
And what is?
Okay.
Just where we
so.
with their,
She was opening it, I told her when I left, she had to go up Yankee and she was gonna swing by there, leave building, so.
the way they were,
By the time we're done here, it should be over, it's okay.
I got,
the reporting
some
software.
drop some stuff off,
For.
all I got is what should be.
Oh, cool.
delivered tomorrow.
Okay.
No, it's just, it's
Very
been,
good.
he's asked to pay out of
What
there.
page is that on?
Yeah, we need to slip that in there.
Salaries, he'll go over it, but there's a lot of salaries on
This
this.
is small number, and we're putting in the budget.
Oh, I mean, see, that's not
Intention
paper,
was
it's
to
too small, right, check for.
That's
The general
No, it's
fund,
too small for
That's
this
what-
budget. It's huge for my budget.
or the public safety fund, but
And, you know,
Get new toys?
Rental house kind of things.
Yeah, I'm just.
My great aunt owns it. She passed away, my mom and her sister own it now, and my great aunt didn't rent it out for the last 10 years of her life anyways,
fine.
for whatever reason. But they
But
and I'm surprised.
shut everything down basically and turn off the electricity and close the, turn off the water off, whatever. And
Recycle.
whatever, it is what it is. But in doing that, I wasn't involved.
not lately, the last few years, it's been, our portion has been almost 10 grand.
In this part of the world, you gotta have some pump, you don't have electricity. But some pump doesn't work real well. And there's boiler in the basement and it got wet and I'm sure had water in it. How deep, I don't know. And it ruined it and, paying the old $70 electric fee might have been really cheap, by comparison. Actually, the irony is that
Currently serving them.
I fund the farm, but, it's good and bad, but we have electricity outside because there's great beds and sheds and stuff there and all that electricity's on, it's on a separate meter. And anyways, long story short,
Are they renting it out now, then?
well, I'm actually gonna rent it for some employees, whatever, anyways, but part of the deal is, okay, well, you just get a knowing or whatever, so I got a deal worked out with them, so that's why.
Yeah.
We're getting a new boiler for the thing, that's part of the arrangement anyways, that I'm paying for it, but it's kind of like, even if they would have, there's a second tier in this basement, it's a very old, stuff, not finished by any means, basement, but there's like a two levels, it's like somebody just like disconnected this thing and thrown it up there, it probably wouldn't have ruined it kind of thing, but whatever. I'd say it's 2020, it is what it is. But you have water here, that. Actually, it's amazing, the well and all that stuff and everything, it's, I guess there could have been more problems than there was, but nonetheless, it's expensive. I guess
That well runs water up to.
we don't have water up there, I mean, that, yeah, we haven't really used water up there, so. When they turned off the electricity, that was the end of the water over there, which has been a little bit of annoying, but
Just to be the chair.
we're not there every day anyways.
You also get paid.
More storage than anything.
Just the meetings.
Anyways,
Well, you put their page on food question.
Was it on the lights and sirens or just?
Oh, has anybody mentioned the sheriff, by the way, that construction is taking place? And they probably shouldn't park their squad cars on the south side of the guardrail. Because this morning there were two of them sitting there.
Give them a ticket, yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that Johnny backs his backhoe into something that wasn't there 5 minutes ago that's there now.
The only way I
I mean,
can like justify.
I had people parking all over this place and look right outside the door here, you
Work with
see
IT stuff.
people parking on the wrong side of the road.
these are our employees.
The sheriff is one of them, he parked out there and somebody backed into his car.
Right. Well, I was just saying, these are our
The lady's
employees.
standing over there right now, and she's parked out there.
Speaking, I see that poor UPS guy driving up there. I wonder if we should have a loading bay for these people, because it rains out and everything else. You want favors done to UPS drivers?
Because it's.
But how many days are you?
Yeah, just one.
25 bucks.
Well,
Yeah, we
you
did it
see,
2 years ago?
like FSA over
Yeah, I
there,
think it was 2 years ago.
if the bay is over here, and he comes through the building, he's still got to go
No,
outside.
no. Well, to get them out of the weather, Ron.
Well, but
I think they call that human nature.
he can't,
Them grudges.
FSA, they can do all of this all the way around, so he would still have to go outside to get.
Take care of him, yeah. I don't know, I'm just saying that I see him parked out there in the second row.
You don't want to spoil him.
Okay, I mean, the only
Well, I found
thing
it
is
very
this
beneficial
stuff.
to have them on your side, because when you need to get stuff done,
I
they're
don't
very
foresee the
nice.
health department especially being that, because they don't even have, they haven't even started their budget. Well, I think they started, but then this whole air piece happened.
I don't have all the information because the treasurer's a couple months late.
I don't know.
Yeah, we talked about that when we were out in the hallway, but that we're, put it on the agenda to talk with Kurt about it. He's not here today.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's improved dramatically from what it was, because I think he was at least 6 months behind. Now they're 2 months behind, but it's still not.
For budgeting, it's terrible.
It's not. It's mostly, I think, I don't know if you caught that, so I'll repeat it, and maybe it's redundant, that Jill's office takes care of all the payable stuff, so in expenses, so those are right, should be very accurate, up to date. It's the revenue side where there's all this confusion on, which I'm not saying that's good, but there's also,
Yeah, the only expense change.
to some degree, most of the revenue stuff doesn't change dramatically year to year. Anyways, I'm not justifying, I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it doesn't need to get corrected, but at least Jill's office is probably the most important part of this whole process. Not just from the rolling it all up, but the expense numbers are where it all seems like the bigger variation comes from.
Since she's so important, that's why we're only cutting the budget by 10%.
Exactly.
I only raised the finance one $1,000.
I noticed.
Some 14.
What? What's 14? What'd you
No,
say?
he and I are just having a continuing conversation with what we talked about 6 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago. Yeah. The labor just across the board. Every time somebody gets touched.
Okay. I'll be next.
I get to do my doctorate, I do it, my thesis on
So is Jill Alden?
how the impacts, one, back in the 70s, of the increases of credit cards, put another layer of disposal monies to people that weren't used to it, and that caused inflation. I had another one in between, now I've got the one of this hourly wage increase that they did, whatever, 4 years ago, how that is not really giving anybody any money, it's just, it's cost actually more.
That's been studied since the beginning of time, that the minimum wage laws are just inflation.
It's,
They've been inflation since the first one was enacted.
and the reason is what I suspected, but Tom Bennett actually cornered one of the ones that sponsored that and was telling how it was gonna hurt everybody. And they actually admitted, well, it's not about them, it's about us getting more tax revenue. But then that's
The drug-free
so
days.
short-sighted because it increases all their expenses. You know, so
It's been done, anybody with a brain cell over the IQ higher than a rock could see that it doesn't work. It almost doesn't. There's short-term gain for the guy at McDonald's or whatever, and then it's just and then when you print money in the middle of doing it all, I mean, in a vacuum, where only wages have, a minimum wages increase, it creates inflation. Then when you go print trillions of dollars, like this stupid ARPA money, that is a waste of money and everybody's time, and we're 4 years down the road and it still nationally hasn't been all spent. And it had nothing to do with whatever the hell the purpose was supposed to be. And then you pile that on top of these minimum wage increases, it's like gas on the fire.
and it's pretty bad when, at the time, there were minimum wage employees who said they weren't for it because they made comments like, well, I'm not worth that much. So I'm gonna lose my job, you know, and so there's that.
You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if you pay the lowest end of the deal, or that the guy who runs up is gonna go, well, wait a minute, I need more too.
It used to be $15 an hour was a good wage, now it's more than $20.
I mean, before, it was 3-4%, you use a credit card now, and they charge you more. That's just, they're just putting that into the profit.
When I was a merchant, it wasn't built in my prices.
Really?
I didn't charge extra for it, but I see why people are, because it wasn't built in. At Walmart, maybe can throw a number in night to increase it. A lot of smaller places, like restaurants, it's hard to build in a credit card.
Yeah, Walmart doesn't pay as much.
So,
It's stronger.
right,
Percentage wise.
exactly. I saw some places, tips had to be in cash or with the Zelle, one of those things. Sorry.
Pay cards?
If I give a credit card to pay my, at a restaurant, tips can't be applied to that credit card. They can be in the form of cash or Zelle.
I usually do it.
We were in Indianapolis last weekend when that whole crowd force.
Yes, probably right, CrowdStrike.
Where all the gas stations and stuff closed down around here.
I didn't hear about it, I didn't know about it.
I normally wouldn't notice, we got fuel at home and stuff, and I don't normally go to gas stations that often, but we were in Indianapolis, went to stop at the gas station in the morning, and this one's closed, that one's closed, that one's closed, because all their computer systems were down, we couldn't buy gas or do anything, so
So
it's actually kind of scary.
Yeah, what'd you end up doing?
Well, we had enough to get by for the day, and then a couple hours later, they were all functioning, so it wasn't like we were in a life or death emergency, but it
There's
was,
those people who work.
well, I'm sure they're gonna be affected
I
somehow.
hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, it's,
Wow.
but
No, I
even,
didn't.
they wouldn't even, I mean, I did have cash on me, but it's,
They probably wouldn't take cash.
so they had, all the workers were like greeting me at the door saying, sorry, our systems are down, we can't do anything. It's kind of crazy.
That's where, if the pumps will still run,
Yeah.
I'll take cash.
Well, exactly,
You know,
but they won't because they couldn't.
We'll always
I don't
take
think they're
cash.
passionate.
The power to be out, we'll take
Well, I know
cash.
you would, but I'm saying these big chains, they're,
One thing I appreciate about Terry Pence in years past, no matter what time the station was open or not, he'd go up there and he put in all the safety guards he had to do.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that.
it's kind of scary. One company most of us have ever heard of goes down, and the entire airlines and everybody's at their knees.
There's still Delta's still.
They're still screwed up.
Yeah.
48 people waiting in airports.
Well, they talk about today now, they're shut down even some because their kids, you know, were being sent to get from Dallas to whatever, Watsika, and had to transfer, but the planes got canceled, so the kid now is somewhere between Dallas and, I mean, it's a real.
They would upset a parent, would they?
Yeah. And that airline or airport do with the 7-year-old kid that should have been able to make the trip.
What happens is
Mhm.
people out of the goodness of their heart and good Samaritans, they just take them in. They take them, people just take them home and they just take, nobody leaves.
No, I know that.
You hear, I mean, you think that's what might happen, but, and it's only because of the goodness of people.
But it's still,
It's not,
They-
it's
they
not
have to be-
right.
they have to be careful with who
Oh,
they allow to take.
Well, I know it's like, they don't wanna leave them at the
Right.
airport, so that's what they do.
Get in trouble with them.
Yes.
I'm just saying, it's something I never thought about when they have these shutdowns and these cancellations.
Hey,
People with connections got in order.
we need that much coffee first?
I told him last of you.
Had more rounds in there or what?
No, just in case.
I have my whistle.
I did bring everybody 2 deputy badge stickers that were left over from the booth at the fair.
Is this how you're making me an auxiliary sheriff stuff you need to
Yes.
talk about?
Yes, sir, we'll do the sign of the cross.
So we're in Indiana too, probably? Could be everything.
No, it's one will look like Marty, right?
Since this meeting was supposed to be at 11:30, I did propose to Joe that we just have this at the top of, and,
You did, yes.
but I don't think that.
You were buying?
That was my
It
question.
was in the budget, it's in the budget request.
She counts, Donna counts,
The first round.
you count.
For what?
We're gonna move our budget meeting to the top.
Okay.
What if we get somebody was inspecting his jail cells and got locked in there?
Actually, I did get locked in the interview room about 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I hit the button and I had the inmates in there for a smart recovery group. And so luckily I had my phone, so I had to call the jail to have them come and unlock the door. So the security does work.
You didn't just pull your gun out and shoot the lock?
No, I've been keeping my gun in the lockbox while I do the smart recovery. So. yeah.
Okay, whenever, I guess the first page we have is on our page 85, which is the main general fund budget.
Start with the department head salary.
Yeah, that page. Yep.
So Sandy does a lot of our in-house IT work. So there was a little bit of a boost in pay for her, along with other duties and executive assistant title. Tricia Shepherd with the, as an admin assistant, as opposed to hiring another person to manage the body cam stuff as far as the dissemination, the redaction, the FOIAs. Tricia said that she believes that she could handle that, along with the duties that she has. So, she's very tech savvy. She does a great job, so there's a little bit of a boost in pay there. The radio and auto equipment, I also added in that the body cams. Now we're mandated to have the body cams by this fall, or by this January. So we did settle on Axon for our body cams. They actually came in less expensive than what the Motorola was. So the price on those the initial cost is like $3,000 for this year, and then the following years it will be considerably less.
That's the line of $27,000.
Correct. Okay.
So it's a 5-year, basically a 6-year program. The total cost $95,309. So the initial payment is $3,177. That'll be due in October once we order and are able to get those in. And then in January 2025 is $27,130. So that was actually cheaper than what the Motorola cameras were, and there's more departments using the Axon. And they also, if we get the TASER 7s or the TASER 10s through a grant that I put in for, those tasers will link up with the body cams. So we've definitely done our due diligence when it comes to researching. We did a pilot program in the jail for the body cams. And Axon is definitely the front runner in equipment, and they came to us with a really good price.
Okay.
So
Just to finish up on that, 6-year plan, 27,000 is initially, and then
yes,
lesser than that than the
Yep.
remaining years.
16,250 in January of 26, 27, 28, 29.
Great.
16,250. So it's not as bad as what I thought it was going to be, but there are several grants out there. I did put in for the small rural and tribal grant. So we'll see about that one. And there's also the LSB grant through the state. Now, there's going to be a lot of departments that are going to be in our same boat. So in 2025, there's, I believe, going to be a lot of money out there for grants that the state's willing to have set aside, just because smaller departments are going to need it. So.
Okay. Looks like the only other one that changed notably was the Rusty Medical.
Yeah, we've got a lower population. We're keeping people less time. We're actually spending less on the inmate medical. So I felt comfortable in dropping that down.
What are the numbers that like comparatively?
I think we're around almost 9,000 for right now.
No, I mean, sorry, the population numbers.
This morning it was 18. So last year at this time we were 24 to 25.
Yeah.
So, and we've had some. Is being recorded?
Yes.
Oh wait, okay, straight. We had some medical nightmares in the jail over the last year or so. So people that were quite needy that had to be in jail. But that's our job to keep them safe. So.
Same with your food expense will also probably go down a little bit.
Yeah, I dropped that down a little bit from it was only 1,000. I dropped it from 91 to 90. We're not even there yet. IMH does not do a stellar job at their billing department, so they're a little slow on some of the. That's good.
But the food's good.
Yeah. Actually, we had a person that was arrested in another county. He's like, I really want to go back to Earthquake because they got really good food. So
that's the wrong thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's good to be known. I mean, I'm sure we got some good Yelp reviews out there.
We get rest over lunch, or we get lunch.
Yeah, if we always order like 2 extra meals just in case we have. That's some extra people.
Maybe you gotta advertise it so we get more people.
Yeah.
All right. We don't have anything else there. It all looks kind of straightforward. Then public safety.
Actually, public safety, I know that's going to be with the StarCom. So we do have the flock cameras at 7,500. We did sign a contract with them to keep that at that low rate. The StarCom radio 2024 payment, so that'll come out this fall. The StarCom airtime fees, so that's figured out with each portable and each mobile have a fee associated to it. There's also the yearly maintenance costs for the tower equipment. So what I was planning on doing, that comes in at, around 12,000 something, I think, for the year. Yeah, 12,987. So that can be split between all the other departments that are utilizing the service. So that'll bring our yearly fee down to $1,623 for the maintenance. So that brings the airtime fees to just under $30,000. Central Square maintenance, we kept that in line with what we had done in the past, so that'll be about 15.7. As far as patrol vehicles, I put in 150,000. I do believe that we can live on that. There's a lot of opportunities that we have with the Asia Motors. I printed off a couple of things for the Asia Motors.
Those are the used ones.
Correct. So our plan is, so we got a couple of Impalas still. So the equipment in those Impalas can be transferred over like we've done in the past. There's no sense in throwing out good equipment. And if the guys want their own smart car, which I think is very, very beneficial to not only them, but the county, if they have to drive an Impala, then they drive an Impala. The sheriff has told me years ago, here, you're gonna drive this white Jeep. Okay, it took about 3 acres to turn that thing around, but I was happy to do it. The only speeder I ever lost was in that white Jeep, but I was happy to have a vehicle. So we can get a 2016 Impala with a little over, just under 15,000 miles for $14,000. So if we're.
What was his previous life?
It was a police vehicle.
Now, just asking, did they take the most equipment out of that?
It all depends. So this is, here's a print of that.
That's just Uno?
Yeah. Okay. So that lists all of a few of the vehicles that I found today.
Wow.
When did they stop making the Impala for?
It was 2016.
About last year, yeah.
So yeah, there's several different vehicles. We've got some 2019 Tahoes that we would be in the running to get rid of. One's got 193,000 miles on it. So if we've got a 2019 Tahoe and maybe we can buy a 2020 Tahoe with say 40,000 miles. If that equipment transfers over, trade out a vehicle with 193 for 40,000.
Like this one's 11,000 miles for 40,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tahoe.
So where are they coming from? Like
Lots of
suburbs where they don't have the miles to travel?
either miles to travel or their departments that are flush with money. That there's a lot of vehicles on there with just under 30,000 miles. So they have like 29.5, something like that. So they're on a vehicle maintenance rotation to where they rotate all their vehicles out at under 30,000 miles, which is smart for them. They can, they get a couple of years of use out of it, but then, they're not gonna have the maintenance costs that we've been plagued with over the last 3 years. So. Yep, there's idle hours on there. I don't know if it shows on here, but it does show on the website. The problem that you get with a vehicle that's been used in like a suburb, it may have 30,000 miles, but you can almost add 20 to it because it's turning corners, twice as much or more than what one of our vehicles is. So it's a lot of stop and go traffic. We have identified 3 vehicles in the fleet. The 2 Impalas with 104,000, 177,000, and then a Tahoe with 224,000 miles. That's what it'll have on it by next year. to get rid of. So if we're able to sell those vehicles, we could possibly gain about $15,000 for selling those vehicles.
So that would reduce your,
Correct.
agreed.
So in the past, what we've done is trade those trolleys when we bought vehicles. I don't know if we just try to take bids, sell them outright. But there's a couple of avenues that we could take.
We've had a lot of luck with the online stuff, Carvana, that, and they come right to your place, give you a check and pick them up. It's a guaranteed number once they agree to it.
Yeah.
So you can always use that to the backup to sell them local.
Don't we have to get bids on it? Or is that,
Yeah,
or
that's
is there?
something that I have to.
I know when we had the old maintenance truck or whatever, when Copus was here, it had to be put on the auction bid, you know, so I don't know. I mean, might be something to talk to the state's attorney about, just to clarify.
I think the Carvana would be a bid for.
Well, you've been running a farm auction bid here for years, so you can start bidding off old cop cars.
We'll do that.
Historical.
We did.
This one was driven one time.
Yeah, okay.
Jimmy Hawk?
Yeah. This whole,
Just asking.
this whole Jimmy Hall went on back.
We did in 2005 when I went to investigations. I seized about 6 vehicles that we bought dope out of, and we did have our own little mini auction in the back parking lot. So it didn't net us a lot of money.
Was it with or without, or what were you, okay, what were you auctioning, the vehicle or the bill?
All the vehicles.
What was your proposal? A couple of the committee meetings, you brought proposals about we need to replace or update current cars, but then you also wanted to add.
Sure.
How many cars did you wanna, or was that timetable of adding?
Yeah, we've got two cars that are 2-man vehicles. So we've got four officers driving 2 slots.
Right.
So two additional would get us to where everybody would have to run.
So your 150,000 budget, you could update, what you talked about, update the 2 Impalas and the Tahoe. That would keep you where you were, and then buy 2 additional vehicles to increase your fleet.
Correct.
And that could be done with 150 using the Asia.
Correct. Yeah. And we still have one that was ordered through Drawlings, Tahoe, that we still have not taken delivery on. So that was ordered for the 2024 budget.
Oh.
So
you really wouldn't, you don't really have to, maybe one car unless you want to update.
Yep.
And then what did you, it doesn't matter a whole lot whether you labor-wise to install new equipment on a new car or switch equipment from car to car. Maybe there's a little bit more cost of the removal.
Doug can do most of the removal, and then he would have Brian Williams button things up tight, so there's no loose wires, things that'll spark up. Doug could transfer most of the equipment as far as the cages and the consoles over, but then he would have Brian Williams finish that up. Usually it's about $2,000 for us to fit a car, as far as paying for a switch around.
I'm just curious, again, back to your budget of being able to get your 35 new vehicles this year.
When I told Deputy Brenner that we're looking, I was going to ask for $150,000, he's like, "That's for everything?" I said, "Yeah." And he had to sit down in a chair. So he didn't think that was going to be enough to do certain things. But I feel confident that I think we can make that happen, especially with buying some used vehicles with the Asian numbers.
Yeah. I think that's a good find, it looks like, for at least some of them.
And Deputy Brenner did find a place that he can purchase some used equipment as far as like cages and consoles. So
It'll come in handy for this auxiliary sheriff's department that you're putting together.
that's right.
I probably need a cage in my truck.
You know,
For me.
Keep my kids in the back?
I found some old files. In 1998, the sheriff had 28 auxiliary officers working at the fair on one night. So there was a whole list of nights, and how many auxiliary officers were needed per night. Like a Sunday afternoon, he needed like 4. But like a Saturday night, he needed 28 auxiliary officers. So at that time, there was quite a few of the auxiliary officers.
Did he need them, or was it just good entertainment on Saturday nights while they all lined it up?
Well, so the Iroquois County Law Enforcement Association, that was not as large as what it is today. So the lines have kind of been blurred in between the Law Enforcement Association and the auxiliary over the years. So I'm trying to unblur those lines and, get them going in a different direction. So
How many officers do we have now?
I think there was like 6, maybe. Most of them are collecting Social Security. So.
And what would they actually do as an auxiliary officer?
So they would be more, they're not going to carry a firearm. They'd be more for traffic, or say we had a kid in a cornfield, we have some type of disaster. Sequent PD uses their auxiliary for rerouting traffic, that type of stuff. They'll set them on Jefferson and North Street to direct traffic. So.
When you talk about the fair and this and that, and law enforcement association, are you hoping that the law enforcement association takes over the fair situation, or are you looking at auxiliary?
They pretty much already have. What I would like to see in the auxiliary is they would just be out there to provide more security for the fair. Last year at the fair, we had a good showing of our deputies out there. This year, I actually put a schedule together as 2-hour blocks. So we had a booth at the fair in the South Commercial Building where we provided information about the Sheriff's Association. We gave out child safe ID kits where the parents can roll the kids' fingerprints, put the DNA and all that stuff. Just God forbid something were to happen. They've got all the information right there to enter. The police got the fingerprints, got the dental records, got the DNA, everything. I also bought $2,500 worth of Roth ID kits. So you put the contact information on this bracelet deal. You take the sticky parts off, you fix it to a car seat. So in the event of an accident, everyone's incapacitated, they don't know any contact info. The first responder is able to rip that off, and it creates a bracelet for the kid. Now that contact information goes with the kid wherever he goes. So I was able to get those. We handed out junior deputy badge stickers and high fives to lots of kids. And pumpkin full of candy. I picked out some really good candy. So it was really good. We had, am I boring you, John?
Go check out that jail cell.
Yeah, you did. Worked out really good. We had some of the deputies that were off duty, didn't get paid. They were able to get to the fair for free. And I had them bring their squad, so we could park the squad different places at the fair. So it would just have the appearance of more police. So, and I had a lot of very good compliments on the amount of officers that we had at the fair. So.
Okay, I think the next one we have, Sheriff, is the Sheriff's Public Safety Fund, that other one, which is pretty much an in and out, I think. Money comes in, you spend it.
So, yeah, that's, with the no cash bail, even though we're not holding people for a very long time, they're not showing up to court, so they're getting arrested. Well, we still collect the fee from the departments that arrest the people on warrants. So that's where the Sheriff's Public Safety Fund gets its money.
Okay.
So generally we've been around 11,000, 12,000. What I would like to do between this and the leads fund on the first page that we looked at, that's where the money comes out for our Verizon air cards for our computers. And what I'd like to do is add additional cell phone lines. Doug and I talked about a year ago. It's an added expense, but I think in the day and age that we're in, everybody has access to their email. We have our policies all online. The deputies would have use of a camera on the phone. That would negate the need to have a $250 Canon camera that the battery's been in all the time. So, in the trunk. And, you know, if they need good quality pictures, then that's why we have investigations that come out. So, but if it's just taking pictures of a bruise or something like that, they do that on a cell phone, plug that in, we can upload that into the computer and into our report writing software. So.
One brief thing, not that is, Joe, do you know what the balance of the public safety fund is right now?
With regards to $366.18.
No, that's, there's.
No, the big one, the big,
$858,000 is tentatively within there.
but we still gotta take out, we still need to pay joint dispatch out of that for this year. And
There's a vehicle from
there's a vehicle,
last
that
year
like
was
50, 60.
55, which I'm pretty sure Doug's got all the equipment already for.
And then but we still got, what, 6 months worth of revenue, which is,
Yeah, everything's on board.
I did that a year ago.
I still have it.
That might be confusing, if I remember right.
Oh, no, it was,
So
There's
on
probably
average,
another
on
300,000
average,
to come in.
yeah, on average, they bring in like 55,000 per month in revenue.
Okay.
So we projected, 2024 revenue to be at 480,000.
So, Mr. McCager, is this where to ask my annual question? Will the balance in public safety tax increase or decrease this year? Because our goal is to increase, you know.
I don't, what was the starting balance? I mean, I'm sure, you had us, what did we project when we said all that?
480,000 for 2024.
Well, that was how much we take in total.
To answer your question, it would decrease.
wait, what?
Because, and the reason why I say it would decrease is if you were to award the request from the sheriff, we don't know what Eric's gonna request, but the additional funds to cover the joint dispatch negative balance also come out of there every year.
Right.
So
We also, though,
we
do
usually
have,
end up expending pretty close to what we're bringing in, if not a little more, depending on what is needed for joint dispatch.
we got a long way to go though too, but the whole thing with that, historically, before this safety fund, the county farm money, we used to transfer 150,000 or more out of the county farm, and that was normally what paid for the cars and all those kind of things. I'm not saying that's what needs to be done, but we've been just taking it out of the this public safety fund or whatever, but there's other
If needed.
things that we theoretically do. There's money in the capital improvement fund that we just talked about. There's 240,000 sitting there. It's not that we're talking about building up, but and the 250 is for this year, for 2025 and 2026, right? The 248, the Starcom thing.
Yes, so it would be payable in late 2024, in the 25 budget though.
Mm-hmm.
So
December.
this year and then next year, and then that goes back away. My point is that
No, it's a 7
It
year.
doesn't go back away, it's a 7-year deal.
But I have something that I've worked on. You can't count your chickens before they hatch, but
Probably options.
very good option, so.
I think it, but
We weren't that far, when we did our calculations on the blackboard, of projections, I didn't think we were that far off, but joint, with Eric being unknown at the time. But what we had worked out with the sheriff's department and the known items, I didn't think we were that far off, I thought we were actually ahead.
And you know, the point is not just to look at this year, I understand, or last year, but was the bigger picture and the magic word was someday there's gonna have to be a new jail. So the idea was we can't set money aside for that into a separate fund, but the idea was to grow that a little bit every year?
I think all the math we did last year, we were gonna be adding at least 50 or 75,000.
Yeah,
Last
you were,
year,
well, last year's projected revenue was 480,000 and our projected expenses were $429,030.
There you go. The problem though is, not to get me on my whole rant about joint dispatch again, but this is an ongoing issue that never seems to get better.
And then we're not talking about transferring 50,000, I mean, I've transferred up to 250,000.
Well, that's my point. And this is an ongoing issue and it continually gets worse and worse and we never do anything about it, then it's eventually gonna become a giant disaster. Quite frankly, it'd already be a giant disaster if the whole property tax thing we talked about at the end of yesterday wasn't. If land values hadn't gone through the roof and property taxes weren't increasing, we'd already be in deep doo-doo over it. Not saying it's all joint dispatch, but that is the looming problem.
Just the yes.
Biggest problem, I would say.
Yes or no to the answer. Question is, did you have some ideas on improving or working with joint dispatch or something through the sheriff's side of things or not?
No, he's taking animal control first.
It's alphabetical order?
Okay.
Trump Eric,
A
he's
before
getting
D.
animal control.
Seniority.
No, he's been here longer than me.
A before D.
No problem. Well, it's another conversation, but I just thought you had some thoughts. Maybe I'm wrong. We could talk later.
I mean, we've worked together as far as, with our CAD system.
You're right, yeah.
But other than that, they did increase the money that cell phones, the cell phone tax surcharge, but that's only, it didn't affect us really. It's only for counties that got like 300,000. So.
The problem is, from my perspective, and we've had conversations with neighboring counties, is that we have 30,000 people, or 28,000, 27, whatever the number keeps shrinking to, and it's just a big overhead for managing that. I mean, at one time, we talked Kankakee County, and I'm not saying it's right, I'm sure there's 1,700 opinions, and I get the overarching thing is why nobody likes these ideas, and I can appreciate it, I'm not saying I do, is that are they actually gonna do a quality job, and is someone gonna end up, that seems to be the concern of people in the community and the firefighters and all these kind of things. If you merged with somebody or did something of that nature, which is understandable, I'm not trying to discount that, but part of it is we have to have two people on, correct me if I'm wrong, two people sitting there at all times. Well, as you can imagine, like anything, that's not always busy, and sometimes maybe we do need two people sitting there, but by law, we have to have two people sitting there. Well, when you talk with some of these neighboring organizations, they're like, well, yeah, actually for your call volume and stuff, really if you can cover up the statutory requirements of having backups and all those kind of things, one person could about hold. One additional person in a big county could cover the Iroquois County stuff. I mean, just because there's
Just an ongoing.
an economies of scale issue that we don't have. We have to have extra help that maybe really isn't 100% being utilized effectively because thankfully we don't have that many phone calls by comparison.
It's kind of like the jail, we're mandated to have two correctional officers, we have 2 floors. If we were to put everybody on one floor, we couldn't get by with just one.
So the new jail will be 1 floor?
It'd be 1 floor.
But I,
One cell.
that's one part of the.
Yeah. And I know when I started in 97, we would only have 1 correctional officer, for like the overnight duties. So I would work, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m., I believe. Something like that. So 62.
But all these things, add to the problem, but, okay.
If we could get our legislatures to increase that surcharge, that would benefit our dispatch.
Sure. Okay,
Police vehicle fund is basically nothing. The e-citation, the rusty medical cost.
The e-citation, Lisa and I have talked about that. She said that she has enough money in her funds to get us started doing the e-citations. The only problem is it's additional equipment you have to have in the cars as far as printers. So basically everything is done on the computer. Your driver's license is scanned, all the information gets input into the computer, and then that goes directly to the circuit clerk. So there's no carbon copies of citations. So I just don't think we're there yet, technology-wise, and have to live in where we're at over there. I think before we get into that.
We have medical costs.
That's
Rusty
the,
medical.
that's the fund that we're gonna not use that for 2 years to let that build back up. We have been working diligently with the state's attorney's office, and they are finally, they'll call down before they plead somebody out, hey, what's the medical on this guy? Or even if we've got somebody that's in custody for 180 days and he incurs medical costs, they can reopen that case and put that back on his medical costs. So we have been working with them. A lot of times the only time we get those in the fines and costs are during tax time, when we're first in line. Because after a while, Lisa just puts that to the collections if they haven't paid in a year, and then we're first in line. So we don't get the full amount, but some's better than nothing.
Yep. Drug abuse.
So if the guys do not go out and seize some more money, then we have any money in there. We have seized over the last couple of months, $500-600. So always good to see that.
Court security fund.
That's got a nice balance. Basically, the only thing that comes out of that is the court security officers' salary, uniforms, and there's some things with the body scanner, the X-ray scanner at the front door that we have to do as far as certifications.
So that's the bailiffs you're saying, that's the court security or?
No, he's the Scott Minch who
Right,
works
that's-
the front door.
Right. Then this court security, that's just Scott you're saying?
That's just Scott.
Yeah, the bailiffs are
The judges. He's the one who carries those. Yeah, he should bump up that pay a little bit. It's $100 a day. And, oh, it's one day. Well, get a cup of coffee and maybe a sandwich. Yeah. Order on the app though, it's cheaper. Get free fries on Friday.
How do you know this?
On the McDonald's app. On Friday, free fry Friday.
Yep, you get cheaper coffee.
Just have water.
There is, I'm going to get, next month or so, a new metal detector, the Garrett metal detector. It's as old as what the X-ray scanner was, about 25 years or 22 years, so those aren't that expensive. It's about $5,000 to $6,000, so I'll get that done in the next month or so.
So it's not gonna be one that detects bomb residue or any drugs or anything like that?
No, just, I mean, I can look for one.
No.
Get a dog.
Yeah.
Okay. Got some over to. Well,
We
I
could
guess-
guess 10.
unless somebody has questions, I think we're,
Grants.
oh. So we don't, are we messing up each other? I have my own stuff.
No, grants, I.
Oh, the grants.
Yeah, grants are the one that I kind of went over, I think it was page 70.
Yes.
78.
So within the police contracts, well, to start, There's the state salary reimbursement for.
Oh, so you're talking about, he's talking about the revenue, so just page 3.
Sorry, I was jumping back.
You're all good.
You're fine.
There's a lot.
So we do have the 2/3 of the salary coming back from the state. The rent from the courthouse to the pretrial doesn't add up a lot, but it's something, a little under $4,000 for that. The police contracts, about little over $310,000 that we're able to bring in. And then that includes the DCFS contract. And that'll be up for the next year, so I'll have to renegotiate that. The person that I did talk to said that when we started this, said that will go on for quite some time. So I really don't have a lot of fears. I don't like the whole salary tied to a grant kind of thing, or a position tied to a grant. It does work out great. I'm very, very pleased that we're able to keep those DCFS girls safe. And I did that when I was in investigations. They would always call me, and if they had something that they didn't feel comfortable about, hey, could you meet us at this place? Yeah, no problem. Well, now we're doing it, we're getting paid for it, so. And then when he's not working with DCFS, he's doing whatever Lieutenant Sergeant needs him to do. So it's working out very well. Josh Snyder's got a very good rapport with all the DCFS workers, and they do call him quite a bit, so. Sheriff's fees, about $32,000, so a little over $440,000 that we're bringing back into the fold. As far as the grants, state opioid response, we're gonna probably get around $15,000 for that one. And then the national opioid settlement, that will drop to about $15,000.
He's on page 79 now.
So in 2023, that was a really good year for those grants. I was able to kick back $26,000 in salary for 6% for the secretaries, because they do all the paperwork, and then percentage, I think it was 26, a certain percentage of Claudio Garcia's salary, because he's the medical officer and he handles all that stuff. So so I was able, in last year's budget, I was able to kick back $26,000 from those grants into salary alignment. We'll probably spend about $10,000 of each of those on some different things. I have bought some things for the smart recovery groups that we have going on at the jail. When Jill texted me, I was just finishing up with the smart recovery group. We got 5 out of the 18 inmates that are still taking part of that smart recovery group. So, and I paid for IMH, one of their people, to get trained to be able to handle those smart recovery groups. It was like $75, so it wasn't breaking the bank. Yeah, I think that's all. Yeah. There's some other grants, like the Walmart grant. I'm jumping through hoops to try to get some of the things that they need, and Jill's trying to help me out. So it's just a pain to get some of these forms that they say they need. Yeah. But that's like a $2,000 grant. Like the Mary Helen Roberts grant, the Donovan Trust, they can get, little pieces here and there. So very good.
Okay. Any other questions for Sheriff?
Thank you. Our options.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a very good thing.
I think that's, and I know Doug, I told him 150, he was like, almost did the Fred Sanford. Yeah.
Well, I think all that looking into all that stuff is a benefit.
And we can try. We didn't merit it. We just Try it and see how it works.
I do have another meeting with Scott Perkinson this afternoon. I don't think his numbers going out into 27, 8, 9 are going to be able to change. You know, and I'm sure he sees it, you know, counties of our size that, you know, they allot $150,000 for vehicles and that's it. You know, and that's gonna be for 2025, 2026, 2027. You know, you just get by with what you can get by with. And I'm trying to do the best job that we can do with the money that's allotted, so.
Well, I appreciate you dipping into all that because it's good to know what the other options are, if nothing else.
And with Doug being able to do some of the stuff on Fridays, that really helps out. Because we switched the deputies around to put 3 on each day shift. We got 4 on each night shift. And then Lieutenant Warfield, Monday through Friday, he's handling a lot of the jail stuff, the admin stuff, the training, scheduling, all that type of stuff. So on Fridays, we have seven deputies on. So we're able to cover a lot more ground. Doug's able to come in and soft close and do vehicle maintenance stuff and instead of, you know, paying the shop rate.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely is helping out and he's in the next contract negotiation, I would like to see if we can have a stipend for vehicle maintenance just because of the phone calls that he gets after hours, you know, hey, my car's not running right, hey, I blew a tire, hey, my motor mount just blew up or something like that. We had an Impala that had 2 motor mounts go out. I don't understand that.
Same side or different sides?
It was the front and the back. So,
Ranger rating it.
well, I have an idea. And he was treating it like a rear-wheel drive car, and he just can't. So anyway.
Oh, very good. Okay, well, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
I don't know if we had any major follow-up items for the next meeting, other than we need to talk to Kurt for sure.
Do we have a total, or is that on one of the pages, the total ins and total outs?
General fund right there.
And that? Like,
General fund's the problem child.
told us as of yesterday we were doing okay, and that's.
Well, I didn't hear any changes I need to make
No.
today.
Right.
Do you want me to change that 50,000 transfer
I think I can just wait on
to
that.
the general fund or leave it?
From the farm, you mean?
Well, I have 50,000 from the farm going to the general fund and 50,000 going to capital improvement. They don't have to happen. It can happen, one can happen, we can take away one. Because with the changes we made yesterday, our general fund is looking at 50,000 in the black.
I guess I would leave it there, because if we have too much excess money in the
I think this
budget,
joint dispatch stuff, we need to see what the hell.
Well, I would also suggest leaving it just because we need to, I'm gonna get together the salary sheets for you guys and then we can have a better idea where those are gonna be.
I would say, yeah, if you could get the salary stuff or some different scenarios of that, what you think I do, and then we need to see what the joint dispatch stuff is, because I think, not saying there aren't some other things that need to be scrutinized or looked at, but the labor, getting the insurance numbers in, and insurance doesn't.
I always project high.
Yeah, so I mean,
If anything, those should go down.
right, hopefully. So, I mean, joint dispatch and the labor or salary increases are the big looming items here.
Okay.
So in the process of budgets, when do we decide, okay, this is what we're gonna put to the full board, when is that?
The full board needs to vote on the budget at the October meeting, and I think it's the 8th, October 8th, that comes 6 out.
So there's,
Unless there's some,
It has to be put out for public viewing at least 15 days before a final approval. So we generally try to approve it in October, so it can be put out for.
Typically, we would have these two meetings, an August finance meeting, and then a lot of times we'd have another incremental meeting at the end of August or later on, something like that for this group to like kind of hammer it out. And then you still had September and October finance committees to like actually pass.
Yeah.
But things are looking for good.
But, yeah, I mean, but if we get this, hopefully by the end of next meeting, because we kind of know where we're at and there's not such a big gap, we could be very close. So that hopefully by September, I would hope that unless there's a big monkey wrench thrown our way, I don't think we probably at this point look like we need a special meeting in August. So hopefully we have the meeting in August, kind of get most of these other numbers halfway nailed down, and then completely nail them down in September would be the rough timeline, I think.
The biggest holes is across the street, because if our revenues aren't.
You ready for a motion? I mean, yes and no. I mean, that needs to be resolved from passing the budget. I don't know that it's gonna happen.
Okay. You're pretty confident then, okay.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying the big numbers that most of those revenue projections don't bounce around all that much, and the big.
Where?
We're trying to see if getting the balances caught up to date.
Oh, from first.
Are we have any concerns that there's any surprises? Is there possible surprises?
Not that I'm aware of.
I'm just saying from a budget perspective, we need to get it fixed and get this end over with, but as far as projecting the revenues for next year, I mean, about, that list is long, and most of those are pretty, it's 20,000, okay, put it at 22 or 18, they're not big movers. The big movers are the income tax, the property tax, and the whatever.
Yeah.
And Mia had her logic behind it, that's the big mover, and
Yeah, I encourage you to find out more in
if
this
he finds out more at his conference, I mean, those are the, not that it doesn't need to be resolved, but I don't know that it really impacts the forecasting numbers
Then just joint
as much
dispatch.
as
Insurance joint
Getting-
dispatch.
insurance, joint dispatch are probably the two big out, well, which impacts public safety,
yeah.
so. Those would be the big, we need to get our arms around, which really means joint dispatch, because hopefully Jill's
We
high on
spend
the,
a lot of money.
spend a lot of money every year, I bet. But nonetheless. Okay, new business, old business, anything? If not, a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. Geiger, all in favor? Aye.